Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Saturday, the 28th of June, 2025. I'm Carey Holzman, and today a review of the Minisforum MS-A2. This is kind of a big deal, kind of. When they came out with this, when they announced it, sold out. Couldn't get my hands on one. So we just went to Amazon. Well, it was a while because it was only available for purchase initially from Minisforum. And yeah, they were the pre-sale sold out. And then they had the lesser model. They have a couple different versions of this, and I wanted the flagship, of course. And a couple weeks later, it arrived as an option to purchase on Amazon, but with like a 4 to 6 week delivery window. And I said, I'm getting in on this one because I saw a lot of reviews coming out. And not a single negative review. Like, everybody was super excited that reviewed this. And I'm like, well, you know, I am a big fan of my MS-A1. I always keep it over here because anytime I need to do any sort of a demo, you know me, you guys who've been watching this channel, this is my go-to. I love this little guy. So they came out with the Intel version of this, the MS-A1. Then they came out with the AMD version, the MS-A1. Not to be confused with the other workstations that they have, like the X1AI, which is also AMD. They also followed up the MS-A1 with the MS-A2. That's what we're reviewing today. As for an MS-A2, with regards to a follow-up to an Intel-based workstation, my understanding is that's in the works. They're working on it. To the best of my knowledge, as you and I are even speaking now, they are putting that together, designing it. So the excitement is still, I'm just trying to keep up with their friends at Minisforum because holy moly. Minisforum also has the N5 NAS, and instead of ordering that from Amazon, I believe they're going to send me one for review. We'll see. But, I mean, it just doesn't stop over there. Holy moly. So the MS-A1, that's my go-to. I really like it. I prefer it over the MS-A1. But I don't dislike the A1. I just like the MS-A1 better. Some people might say it's because I'm an Intel guy. I don't know. I could have told you why, but I can't remember anymore. So maybe the MS-A2 now is going to replace this as my favorite. We'll have to wait and see how this video turns out. As you can see, everything is still shrink wrapped here. It's never been opened. I've never messed with one before. We're going to do that live during today's video and get some real reaction and see what surprises await. This thing is loaded to the teeth with ports and upgradability. If you've been watching the build video, most recently, I've been putting together an AMD 9600X mini ITX computer. That's a 6-core, 12-thread CPU. It's about $200. Everybody will tell you it's a great deal. This has a 16-core, 32-thread AMD CPU. So nearly 3 times the processing power. In fact, what I need to do is go over to the Amazon page and let's take a look at the specifications before we open it. But first, let me say hello to everybody joining us in our chat room. I hope you're all having a great Saturday. Let's go to, let's see, I go to this screen, and then I'll go to this screen. There we go. Now, as you will notice in our chat room, your names may be appearing differently. Let me take a moment to explain what's happening, because it was a surprise to me too. Because of the amount of fraud and schemes and imposters, YouTube has decided that everybody will be known by their channel name. That's why there's an @ symbol now in front of your name. And the reason for this, again, is you could have a channel name that says one thing and then a handle that says something else. So the confusion, like I demonstrated the other day, our friends over at Tech Deals, you remember we were talking about Tech Deals kind of just fading and ghosting out? And I pointed out that when I was looking for a review of the GMK Tech EVO X2, there's a channel called Tech Deals, but that's not really what the channel's called. It's an imposter. Or so maybe they'll claim, oh, I didn't know, but I'm pretty sure they knew what they were doing. So now you have your channel name being displayed in chat, and this means in order to change your name in chat, you have to change your channel name. So how do we do that? Let me come over here and I'll just demonstrate really quickly what that process is. So let me show you. If we go to, let's just go to YouTube over here. And oh, our friend Doug Betts is live right now too. Good to see him back and working. Let's on YouTube, I mean, not like he's not working. All right, let me go to my screen capture so I can show this to you here. Window capture, is that gonna work? There it is. All right, so we're gonna go right up here to my logo, right up in the top right, and I'm gonna go to my view your channel right here, view your channel. When I click on that, it says customize channel right here. When I customize my channel, this is where I give it a name. So if I scroll down, it says, this is my channel name, right? And this is my handle. And my understanding is these two are the same. However, I do see I can still edit the handle and I can still edit the name. If you want to change your name in the chat room, if it's pulling up your channel name, you have to change it one of two places. If it will not let you change it here, then you have to change it by hitting the little pen up here and then change your channel name, and then that will be displayed in the chat room. Otherwise, you can go ahead and put your handle in here, but this is how somebody put tech deals in here. And I don't know if it'll let us change this or not. It looks like it will. You can still set your handle. I think the goal is eventually that whatever the name of the channel is will be the name of the handle. And again, this is to prevent fraud and imposters. So we'll see how YouTube progresses on this. I think it's a good change, but it certainly explains the confusion we had yesterday, where a lot of names that we don't know some of you by, we know you by a different name. And that then created some confusion in the chat room as to why is this happening. So hopefully that explains it enough that you can now control, or better be able to control, what name you're using in the chat room. And I'm sure YouTube will change it again. If you know anything about them, they'll anything that it can help reduce the opportunities for fraud and imposters. I'm all for it. So it's a minor change. At least for now, it's something easy for you to correct and you're good to go. Let's see. Saying hello to everybody in the chat today. Who do we have in there? Eugene Ildago says hello. He says he just got out of the hospital after 4 transfusions and elevated hemoglobin to 8.4. Well, glad to hear you're out of the hospital. At Gregory Howard says hello. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Oh, that is this weekend? Next weekend. Right on. Thank you. Essential Working Too Hard says hello. There's Eddie Casanova and Mark Gaines joining us. I see Ben Laird saying hello from Scotland. Dwayne Blackwelder says hello. And Luke Greenia saying hello. He says, I see the crazy names are still in effect. Well, I hope I just explained that. If you want to, you can go change it right now. It looks like that's going to be a permanent change. Again, I could be wrong, but if you want to change it today, it'd be easy for you to change it back. So that's where you go to change that. Andy W6AD saying hello. There's Frank Jimmy saying hello, joining us here in the chat room. Mark Baggett and our friend Buster says hello and sends us an Amazon gift card. Instead of the regular super chat, Buster's been giving a lot of money to YouTube, because every time he does that, YouTube takes 30% of it. He says, you know what? I don't want YouTube to take 30% of this. I want you to have it all. So here is an Amazon gift card instead. So just prior to the show starting, our good friend Buster sent us an Amazon gift card. Thank you so much, as always. We really appreciate that, because we have to wait with YouTube Super Chats 30 to 60 days before we get the money. And we're just going to spend it at Amazon anyway. So Amazon won't take a penny. If you send me $15, Amazon sends me $15 in a gift card, and I don't have to wait 30 days. I get it instantly or within minutes anyway, and it's free to use, you know, immediately thereafter. So that makes it a lot easier for us. It also puts more in our pockets. I don't think YouTube's going to miss the 30%, but we sure do notice the difference, and we thank you for you know, not only being generous, but being generous in that way. It's certainly a lot easier for us, and we just want, you know, we appreciate any contribution any way we get it. But that's the preferred method right there. Okay, going back to the chat room. Dwayne Blackwelder said it's amazing what Minisforum is doing. They've been doing it. Like, they've been consistently doing this for what, 3 years now at least. Just boom, 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 all across the map with, you know, portable screens, keyboards, mini PCs of you know, budget, mid-range, high-end, and gaming, workstation mini PCs, and nobody else really competes with them in the sense that, yeah, some of their products are just, you know, generic-looking mini PC boxes. And in that way, you could say, well, there's plenty of competitors that look the same and have similar equipment, but nobody's really competing with them outside of the box, thinking outside of the box quite literally and figuratively. Nobody's got a machine that looks like this. Nobody's got a machine that comes close to this in power or price. If you want this, the only place you can get it is Minisforum. And you know, why go to the wannabes when you can go to the original, right? Why go to the ones that were inspired instead of going to the one that started the inspiration? And as far as I know, for a lot of the equipment Minisforum sells, there is no competition. If you want it, they're the only ones who make it because they designed it, and they have all different kinds of equipment to suit all different budgets, and the variety they have to choose from is incredible. We've seen some mini PC manufacturers that used to have a big selection. Whatever happened to B-Link? It's like they dropped off. They still produce a new machine now and again, but I mean, I got nothing against them. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but it's not a fair comparison to compare the two, because Minisforum just keeps ranking them out, new designs, new offerings, and even better pricing. Because right now, this is going to sound like an ad, but I'm going to tell you, Minisforum still has their anniversary sale happening. I think it's got a couple days left. Let me just take a quick look. Let's go to the site together. We'll look. I know they had a 5-year anniversary sale, and let's see, unlock $30 off if you sign up for special perks. Okay. New releases, new arrivals. So MS-A2 would still be a new arrival from $639, which sounds too good to be true, but that's probably going to be bare bones at that price. I want you to see what you're going to get. A Ryzen 9 9955HX, which is the 16-core 32-thread CPU. That's insane. Gen 4 SSD ×3 slots, or U.2 NVMe support, including an M.2, the 22110. 110 millimeters in length is really long, and so when we're dealing with drives of this nature, they often have power loss protection, and that usually requires a little extra space on the circuit board to provide that on server level and NAS level data protection. So if you lose power unexpectedly, you don't corrupt or damage the NVMe drive. So if you want an NVMe drive with power loss protection, they're usually 110 millimeters in length. On the other hand, if you do have power loss protection in the controller, the thing you're plugging it into, then you just buy a regular NVMe. So the fact that this will accept a 110 millimeter length NVMe drive is fantastic for that reason, and you can still use the regular 2280s too. I mean, it's not like you have to use this size. It's got dual 10 gig per second Ethernet that's going to be SFP plus, just like the MS-A1. It's got a 2.5 gig RJ45, and it's got Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, built-in PCIe slot. It's a ×16. but what you could put in there is going to be really a bit limited. Now, if you notice, delivery dates on these are a bit out. So we're looking at about a week or two. This one maybe 3 weeks. This is the one I was waiting on here. And you'll see they sell it as a bare bone. Bare bone means you have to provide your own RAM, your own drive, and your own operating system. So if you order what I ordered the 9955 with 64 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. I want it out of the package ready to roll. And the price on that's $1135. I mean, that is a great price. Imagine, you don't have to imagine, just start putting together a desktop tower matching these specifications. In fact, you can forget the 10 gig port. Let's see how far you can get with $1,135 with this CPU, cooler, power supply, case, RAM, and storage. Just that alone. And then we'll talk about Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 10 gig. This is DDR5, not low power DDR5. This is the kind of DDR5 that you can swap out just like, well, I'd say just like a laptop, but these days a lot of laptops are now soldering it down. Soldering it down is not a bad thing, but some of you still want to be able to change that out. So the idea that you could pick up a bare bones version of this high-end machine for just $871, not to mention there was that $30 off coupon. There's the 5-year milestone sale that I was talking about here, and it runs until, yeah, there's 2 more days left of it. So even if you're not interested in this, but you are interested in other Minisforum mini PCs or products, you can see they have all these categories, $90 off over $1,500, $60 off over $1,000. So this could make your price even more appealing, more aggressive. Now they are a bit ahead of us, I think. I'm not sure if this is a clock sync to me or sync to them. But basically, you've got just under 2 days, according to their clock, on the other side of the world in a different time zone. 1 day and 19 hours, according to this. We're alive right now, so June 30th is your deadline. Now, Minisforum is not paying us to make this video. Minisforum did not provide this PC to us. We purchased it. Okay, so just full transparency there. And I'm just kind of scrolling down the page to see what some of the selection of products. This is an interesting little guy. We never did review this. They did send us one of these. It's a very low power mini PC that is very tiny, about the shape of the old candy bar cell phones back in the day. And you can run it off power over Ethernet. That's how low power it is. So it's got a particular use case scenario, maybe for digital signage and things like that, where you want something small, low power, don't want to run a lot of cables to it. Very unique design there, the S100. And I still have it, I just haven't reviewed it. The G7 Ti is already sold out. The UN100L sold out. So you see the two extremes, right? The high-end gaming machines. This is basically a laptop without a screen or a battery or a keyboard or a mouse. It's basically, seriously, it's a laptop motherboard in there with a discrete graphics card in it, the same as a laptop would have. And this is all sold out at, you know, $1,279. Then you go to the budget entry level, and you can't get much lower than a UN100L in price. So $199 sold out. What remains is that middle I'm always talking about. Everything else is pretty much, well, that's sold out too. Now, see, that's pretty extreme. Everything else is kind of in the middle. Not this. Never mind that. This is a very specific application purpose, so we're not even going to talk about this because it doesn't apply for us. But everything else, this is middle, this is middle, this is middle, this is high end. Middle, 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 high end. So still plenty to choose from, but on the two extremes, those are apparently what sells first. All right, let me get back over here to camera 1. And we have a link for this in our video notes. $1135 is what we paid for it. Just for full transparency, $1,135. Plus I have to pay nearly 10% in sales tax, which is somewhere around another 100 in sales tax. But there weren't any, import fees or anything like that. It just purchased it off Amazon, and just like anything else. The only difference was we purchased this several weeks ago, and we were told it would not arrive until July. It actually got here a little earlier than expected, and that's why I was not able to plan the video out, schedule it out. I wanted to review this as soon as I got it in my hands. So here we are. And now we're back to the chat room. Again, a hello to everybody there. There's Charles Keeler with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Charles. I don't know if it's letting me hit the like button on your contribution. Dennis Hill says hello. Welcome in, Dennis. Kaner6Able says hello. Patrick Manny says hello. Mike Corden joining us here in the chat, along with David Graham, Thomas Mac T, Dustin Fuller, Dazzle555, Garbles is saying he's wearing a tinfoil hat. Wouldn't that be aluminum foil? I don't think I've ever seen tinfoil in my life. Everybody always says tinfoil all the time. Where's that coming from? Before I was born. Okay. Such a nerdy thing for me to pick out. Let's see. I think I said hello to everybody. I hope I've said hello to everybody. There's Andy Kane joining us, saying hello. He says, I hope this is much better. Great. Well, now I know who you are. All right. Time to do some unboxing. We are live, unscripted, and unrehearsed. We do everything in one take. Yeah, sometimes I forget to mention things or mention something incorrectly. It's live. It's like a normal human conversation between two people. If people want to watch commercials, there's plenty of those available on YouTube. But we're here to keep it real, just like you would if you went out to, had dinner with your friends and you're talking. Sometimes people misspeak. Sometimes people get a little confused or forget they wanted to mention something. We all do that. So again, if you're intolerant for that, this is not the channel for you. We're here to keep it real. We're here to make sure that we're being honest and transparent as much as we consciously are aware of. And of course, we're going to give it to you straight, regardless of any sort of corporate preferences. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to tell you what I feel about it. And a lot of channels can't do that because they would lose their sponsorship or money, and then the company wouldn't work with them anymore. We're very fortunate to have a great relationship with our friends at Minisforum, and they get what we're doing here. And sometimes they send us products that we review, and sometimes, they tell us we don't have any more to send out or whatever. That's no problem. If I can either wait or I can go to Amazon. I just went to Amazon. All right, here's our unboxing of the MS-A2. I've been waiting anxiously to get my hands on this. Been watching other reviewers have one before me and then gush all over it. Didn't help. I'm just saying. So it looks like we got a sleeve on here that's got to come off. And let me go to the close-up camera. Let's see if that'll work for me today. Yeah, that's perfect. Got a little bit of shipping damage there, but that's what all the packing material's for. Big old cushion, so that way it can really bend into the box and it's not going to hurt anything. So that's why the packing material's there. Everything is probably going to be just fine. This is the MS-A2, and if you notice, it looks a lot like the MS-A1 and the MS-01, which means they haven't done a whole lot with regards to changing the chassis, which I am totally fine with. When a company does a lot of changing in manufacturing, then they have to change the tooling of the factory, and then that ends up with the unit costing more money to cover all those added expenses. So here we've got a little piece of foam protecting all of our back port. And I can see the power, USB type A, HDMI out. I see a couple of USB-C. I don't know what those are. Yeah, those are type C. We've got a couple 2.5 gig LAN, and those are our 10 gig, sorry, this way. We have a couple of 2.5 gig LAN ports, and then 10 gig SFP plus ports. And if this opens anything like the MS-01 and MS-A1, there's a little button back here you push and it slides off, maybe. Just want to make sure they don't have a screw or anything holding it in. There it goes. It's that easy to get into this. So that is the same with the MS-A1 and MS-01. You can see we've got our PCIe times 16 slot right there, but it's got to be a small card, small shallow card. They do make graphics cards that fit in there. If you wanted to turn this into a gaming PC, you could, if you haven't spent enough money. There's our antennas for the Wi-Fi that are visible here. I can see the RAM. We've got a fan right here blowing down on the RAM, and I am guessing this whole half of the unit is reserved for a card, and then over here will be our NVMe slots as well as our RAM, which is right down under there, socketable DDR5. So I am, oh, NVMe's on the back. That explains that. So there's an NVMe drive there. And I'm gonna guess we would open this up to, we'll take a look at the breakdown pictures on the Amazon website. So I don't want to take this apart yet. I want to verify everything works, so that way if I take it apart and it doesn't work anymore, I know it's my fault. So we're not going to do much more than just, take a look at that. Let's keep digging into the box here and see what else is in the box. Another box. On this side of the box we have some screws, power cable, HDMI cable, and another box that's in the box that was in the box that was shipped to me in a box. And this one, oh, okay. So if you are familiar with what an M.2, sorry. If you're familiar with M.2, then you may also or may not know about U.2, which is more enterprise server class type of storage. And this is to convert, let's see, if you want to, this plugs into an M.2 slot and then secures down into the system. And this is your U.2 slot. This is not a SATA port. This is a U.2 slot. And if you want to learn more about those, of course, you can just look up many YouTube videos and Google that will explain that. But for those of you who know what it is, you understand that the workstation part of this is literally workstation capable, if you're using those kind of workstation components. And you don't have to use it. It's an option that I have not really seen offered from anybody else on a mini PC before. Usually the type of computers that would have that would be much bigger. Okay, so that's that side. Let's open up the other side. What's lurking behind you? Oh, well, big power requires a big power supply, doesn't it? So here we have our power supply, and this thing is a honker. Look at this guy. Now, as I mentioned, on a lot of the mini PCs, almost all of them, they do not have the manufacturer name on there. This is a switching adapter made by a company that just makes power supplies. the name of the company that makes the power supply is on here. But this power supply needs to be used only with this mini PC, and any other use, even if the plug plugs into something else, may destroy the other thing or destroy the power brick. So what I like to do is get a silver Sharpie or a label maker and write Minisforum A2 somewhere on this, because in the years ahead of ownership, I suspect that there will be a time when I move it, that the power supply may somehow become it'll be unplugged and be moved away from the unit, and I won't know by looking at it when it comes time to plug it back in, is this the right power brick or not? Now this power brick, this is, well, I guess I better get my glasses to read it. "19 volts, 240 watts. So my understanding is the chip and everything on here is 100 watts. So what's the other 140 watts for? Well, that would be additionally to power a graphics card, or I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. It seems like a bit overkill, but I also don't see a problem with that. I suppose it's possible that an internal GPU would use the other, at least another 100 watts anyway. But I don't have any intention of adding a GPU to this. As a workstation for me, I would like to edit videos on it. I would do creation on it. I don't necessarily want to play games on it. But you can, even though that's not its intended purpose, you absolutely can use it that way. Finally, in the box, we have some documentation. And that's everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the power cable. Oh, that's what these screws are for. Okay, it's the U.2 drive installation, I'm guessing. You got to secure the drive. The drive will look like a 2.5-inch SATA drive to the naked eye, to the untrained eye. And then you would secure that card to the mini PC and secure the solid state drive, the U.2 drive, to the card. So just for the bare minimums, all I need to do our testing right now is the power brick in the mini PC. So we'll set everything else aside. And we'll just leave that up so we know what the heck we're working on. Let me go back to camera 1. There I am. And we don't need that. Let's plug it in, turn it on for the very first time. So I'm going to give it power. I need a keyboard and a mouse, which I have conveniently placed off to the side. Turn that on. We're going to use any USB port here. I am curious about these USB ports, so we're going to look at that here in a minute. Not to mention we have more USB ports up front, including a black one here that's likely USB 2. And why waste a fast USB port for a keyboard and a mouse unless you think that's going to enable you to type faster? Listen, the internet's filled with all kinds. I'm not judging. We're going to turn this on. I've already turned that on. I need, I'm not going to plug internet into this on the first boot up. But I need HDMI. And I think that's it, just HDMI, if I'm remembering everything correctly here. When I turn on a computer for the very first time, whether I built it myself or it's a pre-built, I don't want internet access the first boot. So let's go HDMI right here. Now, all you have is one HDMI output on this. However, you do have the Type-C USBs, and using an adapter, you can go from Type-C in here to HDMI out or DisplayPort out. And is there one in the front too? No. Okay, so we can, looks like we can have 3 monitors on this. But what I need to do is I need to go to Amazon's product page where we bought this and take a look at the specs and how they've listed it there. But before I do that, let's turn it on. Let's get it going through the Windows update process. Let's see what version of Windows they've included. Is it 23 or 24H2? Is it Home? Is it Pro? I would imagine a machine like this would have to be Pro since it's a workstation. Let me grab power, which I think I am standing on. Of course, I'm always standing on my cables at this point because of the sort of hodgepodge way we've got Studio C running right now. Oh, there goes my little box there. All right, we're going to plug this in. We're going to turn this on. There's our power light. You'll see it's not dead on arrival. It's powering on. I mention that because so many people seem to have this unreasonable fear that they're going to get it damaged. Very unlikely. Let's go to HDMI 3 and let's see what it looks like booting up. So right now we've got that Elgato no signal screen. Just give it a minute. The first boot up will take a little bit longer than subsequent boot ups. And I'm gonna pick my sign back up. Make sure that doesn't fall over. While we're waiting here for the machine to give us a power on self-test. Don't freak out if it takes a minute. As I mentioned, every computer on first boot up does take a little bit longer than what you're probably accustomed to, but it won't do that every single time. There you go. That's what we're talking about. There's not a computer on the market that doesn't take longer on first boot. And if you ever build a computer, you would already know that. So just a reminder, I know we're anxious to get in there and see what it's like. Sorry, I'm trying to get this little cardboard sleeve back over. It just doesn't want to go on for me. Okay, so Windows starts with what we call the out-of-box experience. This is what a clean Windows 11 install looks like. Now, I don't know why I can't get that sleeve back on the box, but we'll just do it like that. All right, let me step back over behind the desk here, and let's go to full screen so I can see this the way you do at home. Oh, that's a lot better. So yeah, English United States, that's what I want. Continue in English. United States again. US keyboard, no secondary language keyboard for me, thank you. I am not going to connect to the internet, so down here it says I don't have internet. We click on that, and then we accept the license agreement. And I recommend you follow these steps. When it's asking you for internet, I would refuse it on first boot if I were you, because I want to create a local account, and it won't allow you to do it if you select your network before creating the username. That's designed that way on purpose. So if you know that, you know you can always come back after you set up your local account, then connect it to the internet, whether it's hardwired or Wi-Fi. So I'm just going to put the username of user, and then leave the password blank so it goes right to my desktop. With regards to this privacy settings, I just like location on. That'll keep our date and time always synchronized to internet time servers. So this is likely set with a date and time of where it was built in somewhere in Asia, which is often a 12-hour or more time difference. As a result, the time will be off because it was set correctly in a different time zone on the other side of the world, but you don't have to correct that anymore. It will self-correct by leaving location setting on, and then hit next. And it's asking if we want to accept. Yes, we want to accept that. Now, obviously, we're going to have to plug into the network to synchronize the date and time, and that will all happen automatically once we're ready to plug in. So as it finalizes the setup of Windows 11 for us, I will wait until the setup is complete, and then I will plug my Ethernet cable in or connect it to Wi-Fi. And for me, today, we're going to use the Ethernet cable. So let me just go ahead and grab it off the floor while we're waiting. And that way we'll be ready when it's ready. Again, if you're firing up a computer for the very first time, whether you built it yourself, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a desktop, this should be the exact same process you will go through if it's a proper out-of-box experience. If you buy a brand new PC that takes you right to the desktop that you've never set up, you never set up a username, you didn't get to answer any of those questions, that is sketchy. That's how, it may not be bad, but it's sketchy. unless you're dealing with the manufacturer directly, such as me, when I build a computer for my clients, I take care of that for them. Once I understand what their needs are, I'm just trying to remove some of the burden so that when they receive a computer for me, they are ready to just plug it in and start using it. And it's just an added value that I put on my computers. And that's the exception, because I'm the one doing it. I know them, they know me. If I'm ordering from a manufacturer that I don't know and they've already got it set up to go to the desktop out of the box, yeah, it makes me wonder what else they might have put on there, you know. So now that we're at our desktop, I can go ahead and plug the Ethernet cable into either one of the two RJ45 jacks in the back. And if we give that a minute, watch the bottom right corner down here, and you'll see that that's blinking down here, getting an IP address, and then it becomes solid. It becomes like a little screen down in the bottom right. And now we can just go ahead and start our Windows Update process. Check for updates, and while we're checking, I like to turn this option on. I like to go to Advanced and turn on this one, and this one. Right? That's just me. That's what I like to do. I also see we've got some optional ones. To me, these optional ones are not optional. I always want and treat these as no differently. They're very important. And it says we selected two. That's fine. Download and install. And while that's working, let me right click, go to System. Ooh, I hear that fan spinning up. It's doing something. There's our AMD Ryzen 9 9955HX, 16 core, 32 threads, 64 gigs of RAM. We're running Windows 11 Pro 24H2, which as of today, June 28th, 2025, that is the latest version of Windows 11. So we're just getting whatever updates have come out since this image was installed. So we'll go back to Windows Update. We'll check on what our progress is here, and it's not terrible. Marvell, not Marvel, Marvell, that would be the 10 gig controller, I bet. In fact, let's take a look at that too. Let's look at our device manager and see who makes the networking components here. Not the print queue, Carey. Network adapters. I must have this in 4K mode. It's really hard to see. It looks like Intel makes our 2.5. Is that 2.5 gig? Yeah. I don't know. Hold on a minute. I can't really read this too well. Let me right click on the desktop, go to display settings. Let's change that resolution down to 1080 so as I can read it. Okay, now maybe I can. Oh, that's better. All right, we have an Ethernet converged adapter. What is that? We have a Realtek 2.5 gig Ethernet and an Intel 2.5 gig Ethernet. Oh, these are the SFP 10 gigs. So then what's Marvell doing? I don't know. We have an RZ616 Wi-Fi 6E. And that, who makes that? RZ. People often want this. Oh, it's MediaTek. People often want this information to know if they can put whatever flavor of Linux they want on this, if they will have drivers for the networking. So I don't know if you will or not, but that, I'll give you that information so that you have it. Our display adapter is going to be built into our CPU, which is AMD Radeon. And with regards to which one, we'll have to look at the Amazon page and we'll get all those details. If we go to MS Info down here, MS Info, that should tell us if we have Secure Boot on. Make sure we're in UEFI mode, of course. And Secure Boot is on right out of the box. They did everything exactly right. This is pretty much set up the way I would have set it up myself. I don't like this little search thing down here, this little cartoon. I'll type in search permissions. And then the search permissions and history appears up here as a suggestion before I've even finished typing it. I click on that, scroll to the last option under more settings here, the last one, just turn that on. I don't want the screen to go to sleep on us while we're installing updates, so I will type edit space power. I don't have to finish typing. Once again, it fills it in right up here. And I just want to check our power settings, which out of the box are set to never and never. I would never put a computer to sleep personally unless it's running on batteries. Otherwise, this is always set to never. That's my preference. I see a lot of support calls that come in needlessly because people say, my computer doesn't wake up properly. Well, what battery does your computer have? It doesn't have a battery. Well, then don't put it to sleep. Well, then why is the sleep option there? All right. So at that point, it's like, look, oftentimes sleep not waking up right is a video driver related issue. There's nothing we can do about it. You put the pressure on the video card manufacturers. For many people, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Carey. I have a computer that has no battery. I put it to sleep. It wakes up fine. I don't have any issue with that. I'm only talking about the people who have problems. And the number of complaints that come in with that specific symptom is very easily solved by not putting the computer to sleep. But feel free to turn off the display. That's the big power suck anyway. The PC doesn't use anywhere near as much power in most cases as your monitor does. So that way you can just let the PC idle, and it'll be fine if you want to leave it on like that, or have it, at the very least, shut down the monitor, but leave the PC on. Again, unless you're dealing with batteries. All right, so that's already set the way we want. Down here, we've got some hidden icons. Let's right-click under taskbar settings. And I'm just doing all this where we're waiting for Windows updates to install anyway. I'm going to come over here to other system tray icons, turn off Microsoft OneDrive. I want to see Bluetooth devices, the AMD software host application, and the Windows security notifications, because I don't know why Windows security notifications would be hidden. It's one of the dumbest decisions I think Microsoft ever made, because clearly it wants our attention. There's a little yellow triangle here telling us there's a problem that needs our attention, but how would we know that when Microsoft hides it by default, but doesn't hide the Microsoft OneDrive and forces that in your face even though we're not using it? So let's double click and see what it wants from us. Oh, what do you know? It wants us to sign into Microsoft OneDrive. So we'll disable that because that's not an account protection issue. And app and browser control, I don't know why that's not turned on by default, but I always turn that on. Now, down here, Windows Security should be happy with the green checkbox. Our AMD application software here, we're going to skip this for now. This is for performance tuning. And it has 25.3.1, but the new version is 25.6.1. Always good to have the latest version. Manage updates. Yes. Wants to download these chipset drivers and AMD Adrenalin. Very good. Once again, you need to check this. If you have an AMD-based computer, you should have this installed. And I'm glad that they've installed it. Again, everything I'm seeing here is exactly the way I would have set it up so far. I don't have any corrections to make here. So while that's installing, I want to remind you we're still doing Windows updates. This update likely failed because of the other updates happening in the background. It's nothing to worry about. Ideally, you'll do one set of updates first, reboot, and then do any other updates. So for example, let me close this out here. Let's go back to Windows Update and see if it's waiting on a restart or if it's still installing. Yeah, so it's this first update, this cumulative update, is pending a restart. This one is still downloading. And while we're downloading a completely unrelated driver update for AMD, sometimes a driver says, look, you need to leave me alone for me to do this. You can't have other installs. You can maybe go into other applications, browse the web, and I'll let you know when I'm done. But even then, sometimes if it's like a video driver or something you're using that it's trying to update, at the very least, it'll blank your screen out on you, kind of flash the screen. You might think something's wrong. And so my best advice is, look, when you're doing updates, I strongly advise you to close out of all of your software, then let the update do what it needs to do, then restart the computer, and then do any other updates. So if we had other software installed, I would do updates on every bit of software. If you use Google Chrome, click on Help in About and see if you got the latest version. Have you done that? You should be doing it right now. That's an example, because many of you have updates waiting, and well, Chrome will eventually do that on its own. You have no control when. So it's quite possible you get the update 2 days before the latest new update on top of that one comes out. Or you can take care of it yourself and have peace of mind knowing you've got the latest update. Help in About is usually where you're going to check for updates. If you use Adobe, if you use Word, if you use any piece of software, you should be regularly auditing that it's getting its latest updates on its own. And the only way you're going to know that is to verify it for yourself. And you'll do that with whatever frequency that is you are comfortable with. Once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, whatever you want to do for every single piece of software. I have gotten to a point now where every time I launch a piece of software that I haven't launched in a day or two, the first thing I do is check for updates. And normally it'll come up and it'll say you're fully up to date. But every once in a while, it surprises me. And it's those surprises that keep me doing that, right? It pays off. And I'm like, hey, I did not know there was an update waiting for me. For every single program you start, check it for updates. If you want to have the latest security, the latest performance, and the latest features, you're otherwise relying on updates to happen automatically. They might be, they may not be. How would you know? So while that's installing, let me jump back over here to camera 1. And we'll also take a look here at the Amazon page for this to see what all these ports are that we've got. So let me jump over to the link we have in our show notes. Okay, so our link is taking us directly to Minisforum because the price is actually cheaper on Minisforum than it is on Amazon. Amazon charges a commission, so what are you going to do? But let's take a quick look over at Amazon just to see the way it's promoted here versus over there. Likely they're the same, but the MS-A2, if I share the screen with you, you'll see they have a bunch of them here. Let's click on this first one. Now you'll notice this is the version that is the 7945. Now that's still a 16-core 32-thread processor, but I want the 99, and it may be listed, no, it's not under here. And there's a $140 off coupon here. Let's go back. We want the 99, 79, 79, 79, 99. Here we go. Now, if we configure this, there's $196 off, but how's this equipped? Does this have a solid-state drive and memory in it? And if so, how much? According to the title, I don't see any mention. Oh yeah, here it is. It's bare bone. That's why it's cheaper than the 1135, because you have to put your own RAM, your own NVMe, and your own operating system on it. So if you're going to take $196 off of that, you're going to be just under 900 bucks, 800 and change. That's a bargain. Come on, are you kidding me? And there it says it supports the 2280 size NVMe, the 110 size NVMe, the longer ones, and the U.2 that we talked about. It does support triple display, so I was right about that. And let's scroll down here. AMD Ryzen 916 544. Oh, it's the Radeon 610 graphics. And comes with two 10 gig SFP Plus ports. Probably not many people would be using that outside of a business. But it does have the 2.5 gig ports, which is a great thing to see, especially at this level of computer. Comes with 3 video outputs. One is going to be HDMI, which supports 8K at 60 hertz. And then the 2 USB-Cs, which support alternate power delivery. I don't know why they put DP instead of PD. It kind of threw me off. But it supports DisplayPort. So power delivery is PD and DisplayPort is DP. I'm guessing that that's a typo, but maybe they meant to put DP there. Again, 8K at 60 hertz out of each of those. So 3 displays at 8K 60 hertz is pretty impressive at the same time. It says it slots up to 96 gigs of RAM, but this is out of date because you can now get, instead of 248 gig sticks, you can now buy two 64 gig sticks. So if you plug in two 64 gig sticks, your total would be 128, but at the time they wrote this, those weren't on the market yet. So this limitation is not real. You can do RAID 0 and RAID 1. I don't know why you would, but you can if you want to. With the U.2 drives, you can get 8 terabyte drives, 16 terabyte drives. These are the big enterprise drives, assuming you've got the money for them, because a 15 terabyte drive is likely about $1,500, and an 8 terabyte U.2 is likely somewhere around $800. You might be able to find them on eBay or something for $500 or $600. So these are very expensive, and these run at Gen 3 speeds. Gen 3 NVMe speeds, about 3,500, 3,600 megabytes per second out of these. Somewhere in the 3,000s anyway. And utilizing a dual fan design with 4 heat pipes, the system efficiently lowers device temperatures. Yeah. And then what kind of reviews do we see on this thing? Let's see, 802.11ax is the Wi-Fi, so that's 6E. It weighs 5 pounds. In the box, you get the mini PC, the HDMI cable, power adapter, the manual. No VESA mount. This is not meant to be mounted behind your screen. It's pretty heavy. It might even tip your screen back if you tried to do that, depending on the screen. And again, we're looking at just some photos and highlights. Imagine just plugging in a U.2. It's a little over 15 terabytes of storage right there on one unit. Cinebench score here at 35,000 on the 9955. The 8945 is half of that by comparison. There's all your plugs. There is triple video output. Package contents, we've gone over that. Oh, it said there's an SSD heatsink in there. That's on the unit. It's already installed. I think that's what they mean. Unless I missed it, because the installed heatsink, maybe this is if you buy bare bones. Maybe that's what it is. They include the heatsink since you have to provide your own NVMe. And if you provide an NVMe with a heatsink on it already, you got to make sure that that is a thin enough heatsink that it'll still fit where the fan goes over it. So you might want to save money, get an NVMe drive that does not have a heatsink, and add this heatsink to ensure you don't have any fitment issues. It does say it supports RAID 0 and RAID 1, so if you want to run multiple drives in striped or mirrored. It's got enterprise class storage, meaning the U.2 drive here, and you can see where the other M.2 drives slot in right beside it. And you're not going to have a lot of space between these drives to put in, an over-the-top heatsink. So again, I would stick with their basic heatsink. In my case, I just ordered this already built, so I don't have to deal with it. Mentions there are, I think this is a misspelling, thrests. There are 3 Gen 4 solid-state M.2 drives with maximum speed 7,000. However, I don't know, do all of them run at 7,000 or is one of them slower? I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure. The way it's phrased here, it looks like all 3 support Gen 4, but I'll have to look into that. Certainly 2 of them do. I know that. I'm concerned about the 3rd one. I'm not sure how many I/O channels we have on that CPU. So that's where the hang-up would be, potentially. There's our RAM. Again, pretty common, everyday, ordinary, laptop-style DDR5. Then you got that PCIe x16 slot. Again, with your maximum speed being 7,000 megabytes per second, Gen 4. They're showing some use case scenarios for meetings, home theater. That would be overkill for home theater. And even some gaming. Yeah, it'll do gaming, but again, that's just not really what it was designed. That's not its primary purpose. And so far, this doesn't have any reviews on it. Interesting. Let's go back to our search result because I want to see if there's any reviews on any of these. Maybe this, well, it's a 7945. The unit just came out. And then I would also watch who's selling it. When I click on this one here, this looks like the one we ordered. Yeah, visit the Minisforum store. So this is coming from Minisforum, and it's saying, obviously, it's in stock in order for us to get it that quickly, which is about a week to a week and a half if we were to order that today. That's fully acceptable by me. A 30-day refund through Amazon, so you don't have to worry about anybody's differences in return policies. If you want to order it from Minisforum, you can, or you can optionally order it from Amazon if you prefer. Other reviews on it? I don't see reviews on this one either. It is such a brand new product. There's the MS-A1. See, that's the previous generation. We're at the A2 today. The A1 we reviewed last year, and as you can see, with 81 reviews, averaging 4.3 out of 5 stars, the people who know what it is appreciate it. I can tell you anybody with a 1-star didn't understand what they were buying. And I can't even look at what they say, but I'll bet you there'll be some pretty funny ones. I don't know what I bought. Anyway, and again, there's this 5-year anniversary deal sale. Is it a milestone sale or is it an anniversary sale? I'm not sure. It's 5 years. They had early access earlier this month. We talked about it. They had the big sale that went on last week. And then for the final days of the month, it's what they call their last chance, what they have left. And I've not been hitting you over the head with this because, you know, you can have the opposite effect if you keep repeating yourself time and time again with the same thing on every video. And Minisforum isn't paying us. So they're not a sponsor here. I'm just saying it because I think it's good for Minisforum. I think it's good for you as the viewer to get a good deal, to be made aware of it. But I won't make any commission on it. If you use my links to Amazon for anything, I will make a small commission, but not specifically to anything happening here. So that is not my motivation. And then let me go back to our desktop and see how we are doing. Let's jump over back here. Yeah, I figured that ought to be done by now. We'll restart, and when this reboots, then we'll go ahead and do that AMD driver update again. So that's going to take a minute. We had a big cumulative update come out a couple of days ago. This is something else you could check. If you go right now to your settings of Windows 10 or 11, check for Windows updates, you might find a very large update is waiting for you, even though it's not the second Tuesday of the month. Sometimes Microsoft releases these out-of-band updates. I think all updates are always good things, and I encourage you to keep yourself protected and always have the latest features and bug fixes. And the only way you can do that is by making sure you're getting those updates. Otherwise, it will update on its own eventually. It might have already done it for you. It might not have. I don't know how you would know any other way than by checking yourself. If you have Microsoft Word, Excel, you can always go to File, Account Settings, and then you'll see, or File and Account in Word or Excel. Look where it says update now or check for updates. It's right there under your, even if you don't have a Microsoft Online account, you're just loading Word, it'll say check for updates under account. You'll be surprised. Those updates often never come in unless you manually check for them, just so you know. They don't often get, the Office products don't often get updated as often. So that I usually check that about once every 2 or 3 months. All right, let me jump back over to our chat room and see what questions you might have or what's on your mind. Hey, I see a lot of people change their names back here in the chat room. Thank you for doing that. Now I know who you are. Phil Stott joins us, says hello. Welcome in, Phil. Just saw you in there. Of course, Patrick Manning saying hello. I'm seeing the names as I scroll up. I'm seeing the old names, and now I see the new names that you guys are setting. I love to make sure people have the control of their computer, that it's doing what they want it to. So when someone says, hey, my name changed, I didn't change it. That's why earlier in the video, if you're just joining us, we showed you how to change that. It's a YouTube security change. At least that's what YouTube is saying. And personally, I'm all for it. Should have been this way a long time ago. In fact, it never should have been any other way. Now that they've realized their mistake, their error in judgment, now all of us are potentially inconvenienced if we selected a different name. But now you have a chance to put that back, which again, should have been right out of the box to begin with. But, you know, they got there. Give them time. Let me go back over to this desktop here, and let's try that AMD driver update again. Let me go full screen over here. There, I can see it. Come over here, double clicky. Give that a second to open up. And then manage updates. Yes. Let's do this again. I also need to check for Windows updates one more time. Oh, then this box should be checked, in my opinion, by default. That way I will still manually check to make sure it's working. But when I check it, I want it to be a 2-second check, right? It says, oh, you're up to date. Great, super fast. And if automatically keep software up to date is not checked, then you're not going to get the updates unless you check. So either way, I'm still checking. But this whole process, you see the screen blank out and come back, that's a driver for the video card going in. And we're installing still, and then it's probably going to blank out again before it's done. That's normal. And it'll likely want a reboot. Here, let me move this back over here. Everything looks good. Close this out, and I'm going to restart. Even though it doesn't tell me I have to, it's a good practice. So while that restarts, let me come back over to camera 1 and back over to the chat room. Does anybody have any questions about this or other mini PCs or mini PC related questions that I can answer for you? This would be a great time to ask. If people watching are wondering, how do I get in the chat room? These folks are our members. The members pay a monthly membership fee so that we don't have to go to sponsors and make commercials the way most YouTube tech channels do. There are very few YouTube tech channels that are nothing more than commercials disguised as reviews. In order to ensure you're getting real reviews, you have to know we're not getting paid by the company that we're reviewing. If we are getting paid, it's no longer a review. It stops being a review the minute money changes hands. So what we're doing is giving you honest transparency to show you that we're able to buy the products we want to review. We bought this one. How are we able to afford that? Because of our members. So while our members are saying, hey, that's okay with us if you want to share the video to the public, I will tell you that if the member said, we want to just only have the members in here, what choice do I have but to honor their request? It's only through the members' generosity that they allow the public to continue to watch the videos for free, since advertising on YouTube is no longer a means by which anybody can make any money. Not likely. So unless you have 1 million or more subscribers, good luck with that plan. And then if you don't believe me, start your own YouTube channel. Let me know how much money you make in the first 6 months. If you can fill a tank of gas, I'd be surprised. If you can even make a penny, I'll be surprised. However, with our members, they support us here. They enable us to keep moving forward with new content without selling out and becoming a corporate spokesperson. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They're, those YouTube content creators that do that, they're not doing anything wrong. I just don't want to do that. And if you're tired of hearing from biased reviews from paid reviewers that are not reviewing but rather making an advertisement, once you realize what they're doing, if you're like me, it's really offensive that it's not fully disclosed. So because the state of YouTube is what it is, there is a lot of deception happening. Whether it's intentional or not, I can't say, but you know, if I wanted to make commercials, that's what I'd be doing. When I made this YouTube channel, it's an extension of my real business. And my real business is helping people, small businesses and consumers, solve their computer problems in the most cost-effective means necessary. I don't oversell them, I don't undersell them. I try and guide them and give them information so that they can make the best decision for them. I don't give them their decision. I give them advice, and I give them pros and cons to my advice. If you do this, then there's that. And if you do that, then there's this. Now you have the information to tell me what you'd like me to do. How would you like me to proceed? That's what I do for my clients. I'm not steering the client because if they buy product A, I get paid extra, or if they buy product B, I get paid less. That is not a function of my business. Therefore, since YouTube is an extension of my business, it is not a function of my YouTube channel, and that's why I'm so opposed to that process. I don't do that in real life with my customers. I won't do it to my viewers, but you may not be aware it's even happening to you. Many YouTube content creators are not fully disclosing the amount of money they're getting paid, or that they had to say certain things or were prevented from saying certain things, or that they couldn't show the video live because the corporation needs to approve it first before you are allowed to watch it. We don't have any of those restrictions here, thanks to our members. And thanks to our members, they allow us to share these videos to the public for free. So if you'd like to join us in the chat, please support us, and you can interact with me live while we do the videos. Otherwise, you're welcome to enjoy the free content. You're welcome to leave comments after it airs live. And we hope you'll consider supporting us here so that we never reach a point where we have to either make fewer videos or accept corporate sponsorships. Now, I don't mind all corporates sponsorship. I mean, for example, if there's a product I love anyway, you know, if Minisforum came up to me and said, hey, if we paid you money, would you make commercials for it? I'm kind of doing that anyway. But at least you guys know from the history of it, this is a company I buy personally, I recommend personally and in my business. And if I can work professionally getting paid from a company that I believe in, there's only about 5 companies that I would do that with, and Minisforum is one of them. But that assumes they'd even want to entertain that. I think where we're at with this, for the most part, is if companies want to send us product for a free review, and it's in our category of the things that we do here, like mini PCs, routers, tech gadgets, we do so under no conditions. In other words, there's no money changing hands. They don't tell us what we can say. They don't tell us when we have to make the video. They have no control over it. They've got to trust in the process. If they believe in their product, I should find nothing wrong with it. When companies want control, you've got to wonder what they're trying to hide. And that is a bad sign. Again, I don't run my business that way. And if we're doing reviews, we're going to make them real. We're not going to disclose them as reviews when in fact they are paid commercials. The minute money changes hands, it's a commercial. And there is no enforcement of this. It's my personal morals and ethics. If you're wondering why I'm so stern on it, it's because I look around on YouTube and I look around at written reviews, and they all seem slanted and biased, and I can't figure out why. When I do a little digging, I find out they were paid. So that's what I'm talking about. If it was full disclosure and transparency, they would say it right, the first thing right out of their mouth. And the minute they say that, what you should be hearing is, we're making a commercial. Company's not going to pay you to talk critical of them. They won't do it more than once. And if you're relying on that as your main source of income, good luck sustaining that business model. Hans Larson just became a supporter. Right on. Thank you, Hans. Thanks for joining our tech club and supporting us here. Now, as a member, you do get members-only content. Every Monday, we go live for our members. Those videos, they're never made public, but they are archived. So as a member, you can see our entire video archive going back years, that for the free viewers, they get the first 12 months, whatever the last 12 months of videos. Once the videos hit 13 months old, they go into our archive. If you want to access the archive, it's a benefit of membership. After all, I want to give members something back for their money besides our ability to keep doing this. I also want to give them something the free viewers don't get. That's archive, that's live interaction, and every Monday, it's members-only content, never made public. So if you're just joining and you want to see the past Monday members-onlys, you can now watch those. So we did some diagnostics and repairs that we will not show publicly. A lot of it is behind the scenes, what's going on, what are the struggles. It's much more informal, much smaller crowd, and a lot more relaxed, and there's certainly no competition in the chat room for attention, although we resolved that with, anyway, through the live interaction, only through members for that reason. People were shouting on top of others that was an inappropriate guest behavior. So for that reason, we stopped having those guests. So unfortunately, that is the society we live in. And while I realize that not every free viewer, in fact, most free viewers are not causing problems, the fact that the only viewers causing problems are free viewers, then all free viewers kind of get the inconvenience or pay the penalty, because we have no way to separate them other than by you joining membership. It's the only way we know how to do it, or the only way YouTube gives us to do that. If we complain to YouTube about it, they do nothing. So someone can come in here and be vulgar, harassing, spamming the chat room. They could be a bot. YouTube basically does nothing to verify accounts. So for that reason, this is what we're left with. All right, so it's not being done to be mean to anybody. It's just a consequence of trying to deal with a certain small percentage of the public that is essentially ruining it for everybody else. And then when you tack onto that the sponsorship, people used to make money from ads on YouTube, and you still make a little bit of money, but it's a dime instead of a dollar, basically. So what that means is if we were making $1 3 years ago from advertising on just YouTube ad placement, because of ad blockers and the ads not being effective, those companies don't want to pay YouTube that much money anymore. Too many people are using ad blockers. So they're telling YouTube, we're not going to pay you this much money if the advertising is not effective. So YouTube tells the content creators, even though your content hasn't lost any value, the advertisers that advertise with us, they're seeing too much fraud, too much abuse, too many ad blockers. And so they're not going to pay us what they used to pay us. So we're not going to pay you what we used to pay you. So if we made $1, we now make 10 cents. It dropped 90%. So it's through our memberships. I didn't even want to turn on memberships, but that became a consequence of ad blockers. And I can't thank enough our members who continue to support us, many of which have been supporting us right from day one. We have members here that have been members for 37 months. So we've had memberships on 37 months, and we have members that have been here the whole time. That's incredible loyalty and support. And without them, I promise you, for the free viewers out there enjoying the content, we're glad to have you here. But you wouldn't have this content without them. I'm just telling you. You could have some commercials, and your ad blocker won't disable those commercials. When you watch other big tech channels that are getting paid to make the content, your ad blocker thinks that's real content. But if your ad blocker really worked, it wouldn't let you watch the content. It would block it as an ad. That's how they're getting around it. You're the one, as the free viewer, who thinks your ad blocker is helping you, but you're just watching. For the most part, if it's a big popular channel, they're making big money. Where's that money coming from? They're getting paid in most cases for most of their content, if not all of their content. Not that anything is wrong with that, but it seems silly to me that you're blocking the commercial to watch a different commercial. Doesn't make any sense. But what do I know? I'm an old guy. Let me jump back over here, see how we're doing. I'm sure that's long been done, me going off about this whole thing. I'm very passionate about it because I can't stress enough how much appreciation I have for our supporters. Did AMD change the color to blue? What is this? It's blue. Performance enables quality, enables optimal settings to improve latency and enhance visual quality. HyperEX Eco is for gamers who want to save power. Let's turn performance mode on. What does that do? I don't even know. All right, so let me grab my utilities flash drive from the drawer here. Let's go back to camera 1 for a second. Okay. Utilities flash drive. I put this in the wrong drawer. Utilities. Right, let's go through the same processes that I typically go through here. There we go. Oh, I meant to look up those USB ports. I wanted to see what USB version all the USB ports are. Let's take a quick look over at Minisforum's site real quick, because I forgot to do that. We're looking at AMD and MS-A2 right here. Let's turn on the screen capture. Okay, somewhere in here it's going to tell us about all the USBs. Ooh, look at those RAID 0 scores. Okay, come on. Where is it? Yeah, a lot of home lab folks are going to love this. Here's what I wanted. Okay, so that's the USB 2 I pointed out earlier, the black USB port. These are USB 3.2. Those are 5 gig per second. USB 3.2, 5? Okay. The USB Type-Cs, what are they? I don't think they're USB 4, are they? This is an important distinction. The front USBs run at 5 gigs per second, and the back USB 3.2s are running, boy, I can barely read this. Hold on a second, can I zoom it? I've lost the screen altogether. Let's see, memory, storage, wireless. Come on, tell me about the USB situation here. 2 USB-C, I don't see any speed listed here. So these are 10 gig per second over here by the power connection, or just in the back. 2 USB-C. What are those? Is it maybe somewhere else in the specs? Have I passed it? Didn't realize that they already explained it and I'm scrolling too quickly? Because that never happens. Not exactly sure what those Type-Cs are. I think if it was USB 4, it would say as much. And so because it doesn't say USB 4, I have to assume it's USB 3 Type-C. It says it does a Cinebench score of 35,000. Let's verify. Let's do that now. So let's do a couple things. I'm not going to worry about that USB-C. I'll have to look that up. Maybe Mara can look that up for us while we're working. Or any of you in the chat room that want to look that up. Let me go back over to the desktop. So we're going to go back over here. And then we'll copy the utilities off of here that I use. And so the utilities that I put on all my new builds, I do the same here. I like to verify things with CPU-Z, especially like any BIOS updates or things. I can use CPU-Z to see the BIOS without having to physically go into the BIOS. We don't have a Samsung drive. I always like to put VLC on all my builds instead of Microsoft's Media Player, which I like to uninstall. We have the Windows 11 networking fix, so I can browse the network without a username or password, the way I like to do that on a secured LAN. And then under testing, we want, let's do Crystal Disk Info to see what drive they put in here. A Crystal Disk Mark. And then we can watch our temperatures and our Cinebench results with HWI and Cinebench. That should be everything we need. So first things first, what is the drive installed in here? A lot of times it'll be something like a Kingston, sort of middling 5,000 megabyte per second. This looks like maybe Crucial, actually. That's our terabyte drive. Gen 4 drive and a Gen 4 slot. It's been powered on 10 times. It's got 3 hours of use on it. Brand new. Let's go to Crystal Disk Mark and see what kind of numbers we're getting out of this bad boy. Just hit all and let that run the benchmark. Gen 4 can run up to 7,300 megabytes per second on a high-end drive. Most mini PC or laptop manufacturers are going to give you sort of a mid-range drive, somewhere around 5,000 megabytes per second. If that's important to you, you maybe want to order the bare bones version of this. I don't think most people can see a difference between 5,000 and 7,000 megabytes per second. It typically results in milliseconds of difference of actual practical performance.
Frogface.
Uh-oh.
All the details are in the video notes, and you have email.
I need to read my own video notes? Is that what you're telling me?
Why do you think I spend all that time putting them together?
Fair point. My bad.
Do your job.
You know, I'm starting to get whatever contagious disease the people who are allergic to the video notes have.
Bingo.
All right. Well, that's running the test.
Do as I say, not as I do. Something like that.
You know, it's a fair point. I appreciate you letting me know.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Let me go back to my channel. And you're right. That you've got. Look at Mara really did her job here. So if we look at, let's do the screen capture, and I'll show you what I'm looking at here. These are our video notes below today's video. And these are all the specifications that Mara has put in here so thoughtfully that I didn't even look. So there's our USB Type-C. These are the ones in the back. Oh, sorry, yeah. These are the Type-C ports. They are USB 3.2 Gen 2. These are the 10 gig per second. So there is no USB 4 on this. There's no Thunderbolt on this. An amp gig LAN. There's our Type A 3.2. Oh, I see. One's Gen 1 at 5 gigs. One's Gen 2. It's at 10 gigs. And then there's Gen 2 by 2. That's 20 gigs. USB is so fun, isn't it? Features 3, M.2, PCIe 4, U.2. We already talked about that. Aviation-grade precision design. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds good, though. All right, let's go back over to camera 1. And let's see how our test is running over here. So yeah, you're averaging about 5,000 on the reads and writes, and that's pretty common for a Gen 4 drive that's pre-installed from the factory. They are not going to put a high-performance drive in there because it's going to add a lot more heat. It's going to add more to the cost, and most people don't want to pay more. They want to pay less. So they're also not swinging the pendulum the other way where they're just throwing a Gen 3 in there so you pay less. Gen 4 makes sense. And again, on Gen 4, you have entry-level Gen 4 and you've got performance Gen 4. We priced accordingly for the same capacity. And this is pretty much standard in the industry, regardless if you're buying a laptop or buying a pre-built desktop or a mini PC. They are not typically selling you the highest performance of anything unless you're buying from a specialty PC builder. And of course, that comes with a pretty price tag along with that. Okay, so nothing unexpected here. Let me jump back over to our chat room. Mara says, why do I bother? I know the feeling, believe me. Andy W6AD said a Crucial P3 Plus. Is it Crucial? Is that what it is? And he says it's a lot of money for no Type-C 40 gigabit per second. I disagree. And the reason I disagree is I don't have any real world clients that have a need for 40 gig. No one's asked me for it, and they don't have any devices that are 40 gig. So at this stage where we're at today, why would you pay more? Because let's face it, if it had USB 4, it would cost more. And I'm sure what Minisforum has done here is they're offering different versions of this workstation to meet the needs of different customers. And so if you look at the Intel version of this, it is USB 4. And look at the price. But then when you consider what that processor does compared to this AMD processor, you'd say, well, perhaps I want the AMD processor instead. It's a newer model. But then as I mentioned, Minisforum is working on the MS-A2, and so hopefully we'll have some information on that soon. There's our final numbers, and let me grab a screen capture for that. Let's go full screen, and we'll go File, Save Image.
Email times 2.
Oh, we have 2 emails now. Right on. Okay, thank you. Let me save this and start our Crystal Disk, start our Cinebench test, and then while that's running, we have some time to check emails at that. Well, we're waiting, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let's go to desktop, and we're going to save these results right on the desktop. Close that out. We'll bring up HW info. And we just want sensors only. Then while that starts up, close that. Bring this up here. CPU temperatures, CPU temps, right there. All right, so you can see our current temperature, our minimum since I started the piece of software here, this monitoring software, and then our maximums. Let me move this over. Let me start Cinebench. Let's get that running. And let's verify if our scores match what they're advertising. Hit start. And bring that down here. And let me come over here. Let's put camera 1 up on the screen and move me into a corner. Maybe this corner down here. Okay, we will keep an eye on this as it progresses and watch those temps. The first 2 minutes of this test are usually going to achieve the hottest temps we will see throughout. So we'll keep an eye on it. I've got everything really small so I can look at the chat room. So if you guys see anything that I should be aware of, please let me know. But I will check in on it. Let me go full screen on this right now. Where are we at on our temps here? So the AMD chips can often run a bit hotter, and seeing 93, 94 is a little uncomfortable. I hope it doesn't get much hotter than that, and it's just very brief, and usually it's only 1 core. Actually, I'm not seeing any of the cores running very hot. We start with core 1 and we go all the way down to core 5. Where's core 16? Usually it starts at core 0. Okay, that is core 0. All right, so if we're looking from this blue point down, these are the actual core temperatures. So this looks like our hot core right there. And we're going to keep an eye on that one. These other things, these voltages and things, these are all dark. We're watching the numbers in the red. These are drawing our attention, but that's the entire package. And that entire package should be able to hit, I think, 105. So likely it's going to thermal throttle at that point, which is what you want it to do, and it's just very temporary. If you want to get the most performance out of your chip, it's going to have to get warm to get there. But you don't want it to get warm and stay warm. You just want it to get warm momentarily to do the task and then come back down again. That's normal, expected behavior. And I will also hear the fans ramp up at the same time, so I can often tell when it's going to get hot simply by how the fans are responding. What we don't want to see is a blue screen or a crash because it didn't thermal throttle and cause the machine then to potentially lose all whatever it was you were working on that was, generating all those resources. You want the chip to throttle before you have the screen crash and lose all your work and start again. But you don't want to hear it throttling constantly. It should just be a momentary, during whatever task you're having to do, for a few seconds or even maybe a minute or two. It should ramp up and ramp back down again, and it should do that as needed, just like your car isn't going to stay in the same gear. You expect to hear the gears changing as you speed up and as you slow down. That's the best equivalent analogy I can come up with for that. If I get in one of those cars that has a CVT transmission that doesn't shift, it's unsettling. All right, let's check the email while we've got the test running here. Well, let's see. We see a PayPal from our friend Mark Gaines, and a generous one at that. Thank you, Mark. He says, I still cannot send an Amazon gift card, so here's a PayPal contribution. Very kind of you, Mark. Thank you so much. I don't know what's going on with the whole Amazon gift card thing, but we've been getting them, so I don't know why it's different for you. But you maybe are the only one sending us gift cards from Northern Ireland. Maybe there's something, I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of that's different. We have a $10 super chat from, just says Ron. Is it Ron Barnish? I don't know. It just says Ron sent an Amazon gift card of $10. It says, I hope you enjoy this gift card. I had my first chemo treatment on the 25th. I'm sure that'll change in the coming weeks. I got an injection once a week and then a blood test. Well, I'm glad to hear you're fighting that cancer and kick its butt. The best way you're going to do that is exactly what you're doing. Follow the doctor's advice. Don't procrastinate. Don't say I'm not in the mood for it. War is not a thing for mood. When you're at war, you fight. And I'm glad to see you're doing the fight. We got your back here. And hopefully you will kick its butt to the point where it won't come back again. And keep us updated on your progress. I'm sorry to hear you're going through it, but I'm also glad that you're not waving a white flag and surrendering. Some people, they don't want to fight back. It saddens me. Thank you for the Amazon gift cards, guys. Thank you, Mark Gaines. Thank you to Ron. Yeah, it was Ron Barnish. He just told me in the chat. That's Ron Barnish. Thank you, Ron. Lynchkey in the chat says, how do you see the video notes? Well, if we go over here, let's see, how can I do this? We could do it while we're running Cinebench on this machine right here. Let me come over here. And let's open up YouTube. In fact, let me go full screen again. I got to make a shortcut for this whole full screen thing. It's driving me crazy. We can just do this at the same time. We'll open Microsoft Edge, and now it's going to bring us through this whole startup process. So let's say we go to YouTube. And we bring up my video. And we click on today's video, for example. When you scroll down here, there's a box that tells us how many people are watching right now, when we started streaming, and it says more right here. When you click on more, all the video notes are right there. Don't forget to give that a thumbs up too while you're in there. We certainly appreciate it. So I hope that answers your question. And let's go back. Yeah, everything's still looking just fine here. And we've got another 2 minutes to run this test. And we'll see what our final results are on the multi-core test. Ian Gooch joins us. Hey, Ian. Ian joins us from London. Good to see you, my friend. Andy Kane wants to know, could you use this in your current setup? Well, it's not that I don't want to, but my current setup right now is primarily a laptop because until Studio C is renovated, I don't have a purpose for these personally, other than the convenience of pulling out a machine for demoing, you know, flash drives or demoing software. I like to have a good quality machine that it's not going to be slow, that we're waiting on in a live video. This, like the MS-01, the MS-A1, the MS-A2, the XA-A1, even the AMD Minisforum computers are all rocket ships, all of which would more than meet my personal needs for video editing and all of the correspondence I do. However, we don't have a place to set up 20 computers. So I have to make a decision based on what space I've got available and what my needs are. So for right now, I use the laptop primarily as my main personal station. And we have a tower, the red and black streaming computer, that I use strictly for streaming. All the other towers we build, whether it's the server from last week or the Mini ITX that we're still working on, those will end up sitting on a shelf until they eventually get sold. While they're all very capable and attractive and really nice machines, we'd be lucky to have one of them. We unfortunately don't have any room to put them into work, to actually deploy them and use them. But any of these machines we've built here would pretty much meet my needs, especially, you know, my biggest need is video editing. And every single machine we built by hand will clearly do that without a problem. Even the mid-priced ones are no problem at all. When it comes to mini PCs, we have plenty of mini PCs that are even more capable than the budget desktops we build. But once you reach a certain level, it doesn't really go any better than that when it comes to my needs. I'm not going to read any faster. I'm not going to type any faster. My internet's not going to go any faster. So at some point you reach, you know, they had asked Bill Gates, I think, about when he was early on making a lot of money, and they asked him why he was flying coach. He's like, I'm not getting there any faster. I'm not a big or tall person. I don't need the extra seat room. I don't see the point in spending the money. And he also mentioned something else I never thought of before. He said the problem when you make a lot of money is once you make a certain amount and you've eaten at the finest restaurants and you've stayed at the finest hotels, there's nothing above that. Once you've made whatever that amount of money is, that you can now find, you know, have the most fine dining experience available anywhere in the world. You can stay at the finest resorts. Any money that you make above that, that's it. That's it. There's no better restaurant and there's no finer resort to stay at. You've already made that amount. So in much the same way, well, we see a lot of the internet enthusiast community just fixated on performance. The reality is, for most people, they're not going to get a return on the added expense of that added performance because they're not going to read faster, they're not going to type faster, their gaming skills are not getting any better, their internet's not getting any faster. They're just chasing numbers. And they're allowed to do that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But when it comes to my needs for the work I need to do, it doesn't take much to get to a point where anything above that, the return is teeny tiny, but the cost grows and grows, so the value gets lost. And so you could do it simply because you can do it, right? I can get the most expensive, you know, the $10,000 server. Sure, that'll meet my needs. I don't use it. It's so over the top for my needs. There's no benefit to me using it. It doesn't make any sense. It won't do anything I do any faster. So that's why you don't see me use it. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, I might have a pickup truck and it might be four-wheel drive, but if I never take it off-road, why do I have a four-wheel drive vehicle? An all-wheel drive vehicle is a different thing. I'm talking about, hey, maybe you got a pickup truck, but you never haul anything. Why do you have it? What's it doing for you? Was it because it was cheap and so that was the cheapest thing you could get and so that's what you bought? Well, that's not typically how people buy computers, although sometimes it is. So yeah, this will likely go over here until we get the studio set up. And you will likely see it numerous times because it's very easy for me to grab it, hook it up, and use it to demo something. But other than that, until I get a desk and everything set up, I have to pick one of 40 or 50 computers here I want to use. And the one I pick has nothing to do with the others not being adequate. It's just, you know, how do you pick? All right, let me go back over to this computer and start a single core test. That's going to run hot on one core only. And what were our results? I cannot see them. Full screen. Our results, 31,248. Minisforum said 33,000. But you got to keep in mind, I did sort of interfere with that opening up YouTube. And if you run the test twice, you're going to get two different numbers. If you run it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, it won't be the same, not likely. So we could run this again just to see if the number goes higher or lower, but I guarantee it won't be exactly the same. And also, by me not running Internet Explorer in the background, I didn't think about it in that sense. I was thinking about it in terms of temperature. It wouldn't hurt anything, but it could have affected our test score. So just so you know, that could be my bad. I corrupted our test score. All right, so we're running on one core now. And if we look at the temperatures, we can often tell which core we're running on by which one's the hottest. And if you see a couple of cores that are running hot, like this one at 91, and this one at 91, and this one at 89, these three are probably grouped close together. So the heat of the one doing the work is so hot, and they're so close together on that chip, that those that are closest are going to get the heat coming off of the core that's being used right now. Now, if we also wanted to check which core it was, we could probably just do Control-Alt-Delete. And again, this is probably going to kind of corrupt our test results accuracy, but we could go to, where is it, under here? Performance, CPU. Let's bring this out a little bit. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to come over here, resource monitor, and we should see which of the cores. Let's just go full screen on this. Cores. There's all our cores, and it looks like core 4, even though it's a single core test, and I'm not sure how much of the resource monitor is activating one of these cores. And Cinebench looks like it's either running on Core 4 or Core 5, and these may be the hyper threads of Core 4 and 5. Everything else is just idle. See that? So now if we look at the temps of Core 4 and 5, and because 8 and 9, I don't know if those are actual cores, or which one's the hyper-threaded cores, I can't tell. So let's look at cores 4 and 5. 4 looks like it's really getting hammered more than 5 is. So let's close this out and take a look at the temp on Core 4. Yeah, that was the one I was saying was running hot. There you go. And then Core 5 will also be hot. So it's really easy to tell if you're curious which core we're working on. It used to be gaming would run better on single core, but nowadays, dual core better does tend to help gaming performance. But a few years ago, buying a multi-core CPU in order to game with it did not give you any benefit whatsoever. In some cases, it ran worse. And there was a lot of reviews discussing multi-core performance versus single core performance because of the influence of the gaming community. Gaming community really wants to know that single core performance, or they used to. These days, once you achieve about 4 cores, anything above and beyond that's kind of a waste for most people. However, it depends how you use your computer, but if it's for gaming, you likely won't see much difference in most games having more than 4 cores. Period. End of story. It's going to be on your graphics card at that point. There'll always be exceptions, but it's not the rule. And the world is not filled with absolutes of anything. And of course, if you know better, then I don't need to tell you, right? You've already, if that's something you want to challenge me on, there's no point in it because that information was not for you. All right, let me jump back over to that screen there and take a look in the chat. Thank you for your question, Andy, by the way. We'll find out how it goes, but I do love these little mini PCs, and I can already tell. At least as far as the A1 and the A2 go, I do like the A2 better because it's just a lot more power. Nothing wrong with the A1 until the A2 came out. All unhappiness is caused by comparison. So if I had a choice to buy an A1 or an A2, I think it goes without saying, I'd rather have the new version. It cracks me up when people review a new laptop from last year's laptop. And what do you know? It's faster and it's better. Really? Who would have thought? But as far as the MS-A1 versus the A2, I think I would wait because I think the MS-A2, and I'm just speculating, but I think it's going to come out soon. And I would rather wait and see what happens because the MS-A1 has been out a while now. And if you want a polished platform that's had time to mature, then grab the MS-A1. It's a great price. But if you want the fastest version of it, you're going to want the MS-A2. Our friend Buster is telling Ron Varnish, you're not alone in your battle with cancer. I've been battling it since 2019. At the moment, no treatment required, but stay strong and kick its butt. Well, the only reason Buster doesn't have any treatment required is because he's already treated it, right? And so he just goes back for follow-ups to make sure it's not coming back. And if it is, they catch it real early. And then the treatment's not as aggressive. So, and thank goodness he is taking care of it. And the treatment has been effective. And he's doing, from what he tells us, he's doing really well. And we hope the same for you, of course, Ron, and anybody else that's fighting that battle. Because that battle sucks. But fighting back is absolutely critical. And I mean fighting back immediately. Don't put that off. And Buster's living proof of those words right there. Andy says, Cinebench will give you a number after each pass. I'm not really interested in seeing the number after each pass. In order for the Cinebench test to be fair, we want to run it through several passes, get the chip heated up, and then, get a fair acquired number, not just, oh, well, it's cold, it ran faster. I want to know how it's going to run all warmed up and everything. That's why the default settings out of Cinebench are what I use, so that anybody at home can easily follow along if you want to see how your computer compares with heat or with benchmarks. The software is all free to download, and sometimes this information may mean nothing to you if you've never run it against the computer you're using now. Then that'll give you a point of reference to see if your computer is indeed faster or slower, and if so, by how much. That information could be bad though, because you're probably going to find out your computer's way slower than this. But let's face it, this just came out, and it's unlikely you're using a computer you just recently bought. You could be, but it's not likely. As a result, because this is newer and it is a flagship model, it's probably going to be a lot faster. So sometimes ignorance is bliss. If you're happy with what you have, don't worry about benchmarks. But if you are worried about benchmarks, I hope you have a big wallet, because after this there'll be another one, and after that one there'll be another one. So again, once it can meet your needs, anything above and beyond that is just wasting money, in my opinion. Let me go full screen. Speaking of this, let me go back to full screen on that, because everything is super tiny when I'm looking at the chat room. But when I go full screen to see this, then I can't see the chat room anymore. We'll probably end up using 2 monitors or something once we get the studio set up here, but looks like we've got about 26 seconds left of the warm-up. And temps are pretty well locked in. So I'm going to guess that it's likely thermal throttling that's probably set somewhere in the BIOS. And don't let me forget, we'll go into the BIOS and take a look at it at today's video. I have no desire to change any of the internal components, by the way. That's why I ordered it with the RAM and storage and the high-end CPU, so I don't have to. We have found that a lot of you do enjoy ordering bare bones and building it. And Minisforum is one of the few mini PC manufacturers that offer you that option to save the money on the RAM and storage and provide your own. And it does seem like much of our audience, which again is not representative of overall sales. In other words, Minisforum isn't selling a percentage of bare bones units to ready to roll units at the same level as what we're witnessing in our community, where it does seem like many of you are buying bare bones versions of the things we're showing. And that's fascinating to me. It's good to know my audience and where you're tending to lean versus the world in general, because the world in general isn't watching. You guys are watching. And when I know that information, I know which products to showcase. So what we'll likely do is we will get a bare bones of something, and we'll show you how, for those of you who in our audience that are not buying the bare bones, understand what that means, what you're expected to do, that you're not buying a product that's going to work out of the box, and in fact the product may be in some form of disassembly, so that it's easier for you to get in there. Like, we're looking at those Nemo laptops. They don't have screws in them because they know you got to take the back off. The battery's not hooked up because there's no reason for it to be. So since you're going to be in there to put the RAM and storage in anyway, they give you a baggie of screws, and you hook up the battery, you put in your RAM, you put in your solid state drive, then you put the screws in it. That way it's saving you work, and then you put your operating system on, whether that's Linux or Windows or whatever you want. So I think it'll be best if I demonstrate that. And it's the same with the Minisforum. When it's bare bones, you'll open it up. In this case, we're not working with any batteries, so no issue there. But we're going to put our own RAM, our own storage, and we're going to have to create our own, install our own operating system that we will need to provide a license for, or not, depending on, if you already have a license or it's something like Linux. And does that save you money? Maybe, maybe you already have the RAM on hand, and maybe you want more or faster. You'll spend more, but you're also getting more. And at least that way you're not just taking out brand new memory that you bought in a traditional computer that you don't want, because that doesn't make any sense to pay for something you don't want. Our final score on our CPU bench single core 2156. I'm going to run this multi-core one more time. We were at 31,248, and I just want to see if I leave it alone this time, and also demonstrate to you how the score will never be the same twice. So just because you get a score doesn't necessarily mean that's the word. Bird is the word. No, it doesn't mean that that's the final say. It really depends. Sometimes you can have Windows updates happening in the background, which could have been happening for all I know. Windows temp file adjustment settings, all this kind of stuff going on in the background that you don't know about can affect your test scores. So generally the rule is you want to run it no less than 3 times. And the reason I don't do that with Cinebench is it's a 10-minute warm-up, which is already sort of running the test multiple times so that you don't have to. But if during those multiple tests the system was doing something in the background, then you're not getting an accurate representation of the full capabilities of this machine if you don't have its sole undivided attention and it's busy, you know, dividing its attention and resources to other things going on back there that you're not seeing. Okay, so if you want to be sure, you run it about 2 or 3, 4 times. The more you run it, you can average out your numbers. You'll get four tests, you'll get 4 different numbers. You take those numbers, add them all up, divide them by 4, that's your average. I'm sure with Minisforum's advertising there, they're probably showing the best of multiple testing. That's pretty common. They don't average it out. They'll say, well, keep testing it until we see a big number. It's legit. At some point you realize that's as big as it's going to go. That's the one we're using in our marketing, right? That's assuming everything is ideal. And that's the same with Wi-Fi. That's the same with CPU frequency. It's the same with data transfer speeds on storage drives. They always give you a best case scenario. But what they're not doing is they're not lying to you. They're not saying it'll do better than it can do. And if the reason you're not seeing that number you think is fraud, no, not necessarily. If it's a reputable company, it's in the testing processes, which is often more than one test. Same test, multiple times. Okay? I just want to clear that up because I do see some confusion and false accusations happening from people not understanding the way the industry and marketing works. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. But there is, like, this is the best it can do, and then this is your average. Why would you promote the average? That's not exactly going to get people excited. I wouldn't think, compared to showing, look, if everything's great, you know, they'll often say like up to. You'll see that in the news here in America. This person is committed of a crime and could spend up to 15 years in prison and up to a $250,000 fine. And then you follow the story up and find out they got 3 months probation. So the news told you the worst case. Like if this judge was really strict or really upset at this criminal or alleged criminal and said, I'm giving you the maximum sentence and the maximum penalty, that's what the news tells you. This person could face up to X amount of time in jail, X amount of a fine. But very rarely does anybody get the maximum. It's got to be pretty heinous of a crime. Heinous? There's Planet Cryos with a $2 super chat. He says, it's me. What more do you want? $2? Oh, you got it. Thank you, Jason. Andy says, my first bare bones is on the way. What'd you order? Our friend Buster saying good night. Have a good night, Buster. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for your generosity and your support. Always brings a smile. See Buster joining us, as he has been for years, by the way. Andy says he got a GMK Tech K8. I don't think you've ever shown that one. You'll have to let us know what you think of it when you get it. Does it have rubber feet you've got to remove to get into it? Is it easy to work on? Are you happy with the noise levels and performance? Keep us up to date. I'd love to hear back on that. Ray Harrington says, it seems that my name isn't available in YouTube, so here it is. You usually can add numbers or periods or dashes if somebody else is using your name. That's the point, is they don't want to have imposters. So you might need to, well, it looks like you've already adjusted it. It's like trying to get an email address at Gmail. Every name's been taken to the point. It says select a name, you punch your keyboard. It says somebody's already got that. Patrick Manny said his Ace Magician is 3 years old now. It's an N95 and it still works great. You know, a lot of people prefer the N95s. They're less power efficient, but have better GPU output. So again, we're mostly talking the budget gaming community. So the 95s and 97s hold more value to them. They're more desirable to that community than the 100s and the 150s. You know, to each their own. The 100 and 150s are far better with power efficiency. They don't run as hot. They don't use as much power. They cost less to run. But the GPU, the built-in GPU on those is not as good as the previous gen. And of course, because of that, they're going to get hotter and they're going to eat up more power. I don't think it's a lot one way or the other, but just so you know, that N95 that's 3 years old, a lot of people would still rather have that than a brand new N100. Andy says, I got the GMK Tech G3 because of your stream. It's a great budget machine. I don't think it can be beat for the money. I stand by that. I love that you can just pop the lid off and get right in there without screws. And for the price, there's, you know, this idea that, well, I'm stuck on Windows 10 is all nonsense when you can buy a brand new Windows 11 compatible computer. That's likely even faster than any computer that cannot run Windows 11 is probably so old and so slow that even the cheapest budget entry-level machine is likely faster. That's how much technology has evolved in the last 10 years. And I don't mean a little faster, I mean a lot. And I say likely because there will always be some exceptions to what people have built. But if you're in a financial situation, here's the logic. That you say, I can't afford to buy another computer, then likely the one you already have wasn't that expensive to begin with. This is likely not a new scenario for you. Likely you could barely afford the one you bought 10 years ago. So it would not have been a flagship model. Again, I'm talking stereotype. That is the most common thing I see. So when I'm spouting out, oh, this budget computer is probably going to be faster, because of those people who say they cannot afford a new Windows 11 computer and their computer is so old it's not Windows 11 compatible, then likely that computer was a budget computer too, all those years ago, which makes that computer even slower than you can possibly imagine. For somebody to say, I bought a $2,000 computer 10 years ago, and I can't afford a $100 computer today, yeah, I guess, but that's not normal. Mark Baggett said, sorry, I've not been active in the chat today. I've been listening while getting some work done. Oh, well, in all cases, get the work done. That's way more important. I should probably try that sometime. It's good to see you, Mark. Let me go full screen over here, see how we're progressing. Oh, we're moving along really good. Look how fast that redraws, too. So we're looking at another, what, 30 seconds, and the test will run. Temps did go up a little bit the second go around here. We're still maintaining under 95. AMD will say, oh, you're good all day at 95. I disagree with AMD. I'm okay with 95 once in a while, but not all day. If it's all day, something's wrong. And of course, that's going to generate more heat, more fan noise, and consume more power if you're running at 95 all day. It's going to degrade your CPU and wear it out that much faster too. But for little bursts, absolutely fine. Especially when you're dealing with such a small size, you've got to allow for, you know, normally my level is 85. When I see 85 degrees Celsius, I get a little concerned. But on a mini PC like this, with such a high-end CPU, the fact that it's not crashing, that it's running as well as it is, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could build a machine this small without having significant heat problems that would have to result in me underclocking it. At which point, why didn't I just buy a cheaper CPU? So what Minisforum has accomplished here is pretty incredible. Let me pull my flash drive out. I'm done with that. And there is a lot of heat coming out of the back, and this lid is warm, but it's not too hot to touch, but it's absolutely warm. And the heat coming out the back, pretty darn warm too. But that's how it's keeping it cool, right? The heat's got to go somewhere. The important thing is it's not causing any crashing or stability issues. So we are back right around the same score, 31,241 here. So I don't know how Minisforum got to 33,000, but as you can tell, when you look over here at our ranking, it's #1 in the rank. Compared to, what is that, a Ryzen Threadripper 2990. So a 2990 WX doesn't run this fast. And out of curiosity, I just want to know, if I go to Amazon and look for a 2990 Threadripper, how much is it? Just the chip, not the motherboard, not the RAM, not the storage, not the case, not the power supply. 2990 WX Threadripper on Amazon. Before you tell me this computer is expensive, look at this. This is a 32-core, 64-thread processor that doesn't even run as fast. It only runs at 3 gigahertz. It's a 250-watt TDP, and it sells for $2,000, just a shade under $2,000. You could buy nearly, well, you could buy nearly 3 of these machines as bare bones units, because that's pretty bare bones if you ask me. You used to have to buy a motherboard. You used to have to buy, you know, in this case, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and a power supply. That this is all included, a case. Suddenly that doesn't seem so bad now, does it? We've reached a point now where our expectations have become so high in exchange for so little. Do you realize what you're saying? So again, if USB 4 is important to you, then maybe consider the MS-A2 or Minisforum. We just did the, was it the UM880? Let me go back over here for a second. I think the UM880 was also USB 4. But you don't necessarily need a workstation. I think eventually USB 4 will be standard, but sorry, hold on, I'm distracted. Let me look for, yeah, so this, let me just share the screen and you can see what I'm seeing here. I'm back over at the Minisforum, and it says the numbers we're getting are better than the 7945, but we're a good 4,000 below the 9955. This is a 9955, right? We did look at that, didn't we? Hold on, let me just double check my work. Let's go back here. Full screen. Full screen. Let's do this. First and foremost, let me save these results. So I'm going to hit, what buttons do I press? Shift function, print screen. Open Paint. Control V. Let's save these results to the desktop.
And that'll also keep our temps on there. We can see everything, including our scores. And then I don't have to worry about remembering or pulling the video up later. And let's just double check our system. Yeah, that's a 9955. So again, it's going to idle around 2.5 and it'll scale or turbo to, what did I say, 3.4? Is that what I said? Let's go back to camera. No, let's go back to window capture over here. Should tell us. Yeah, 5.4 will be its maximum boost with a TDP of 100 watts. And again, it's a 240 watt power brick. So yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better value than this for this level of power. But if you want to prove me wrong, I'd love to put that challenge out to you and for you to provide me with information that clearly I don't have if you can find something that's giving you more for less, or even the same for less. I think what Minisforum here has created is very unique, and there is no competition for it, as far as I can tell. Let's do this. Let's go to the BIOS on this. Let's see. Let's do a shutdown. And you know, I never did go back to Windows Update because, again, there still could be updates waiting. So let's check that real quick. And then let's go in the BIOS and take a look at what that looks like. There's nothing that I don't like more than buying a really expensive computer and getting a real basic BIOS. I hope Minisforum has their nice graphical user interface and not the simple 1990s looking text-based interface. It's fine on budget machines, but you know, when I'm building computers today, we don't see those BIOSes anymore. We might see them in a laptop, but even then, you know, Dell has a nice mixture of kind of graphical user interface with text, just a little bit more advanced UEFI interface. And I think it's a little bit of a shame when I see, you know, a $1,500 mini PC that has just a text-based BIOS. So which one does this have? Let's let it download and install these couple updates, and then let's go check and see if I'm gonna be happy or sad. I anticipate that this will be like the MS-A1 and the MS-01, and that it has a nice graphical user interface BIOS. I need to check it. In the meantime, let me just go back over to the chat room right quick. And again, if you have any questions for me, this will be the time to ask. We're just at about we're over our 2-hour mark here, so I'm gonna try and wrap it up. Peter VZ joins us with a €60 super chat. Thank you, Peter. Again, if you're joining late and you're wondering why your name is appearing differently in the chat room, go back and watch the beginning of the video. We explain all that and how you can change it if you want to. Luke Greeny said it. The wife says it's time for me to cook her dinner. Hot dogs go round. Microwave hot dogs. I like cooking. I'm assuming you do too. He says, everyone have a great and safe night. Thanks, Luke. Enjoy your dinner. Andy mentions that GMK Tech K8 has the same kind of access as the G3 that I like, where you just pull the lid off. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I don't know the specs on it, so you'll have to tell me. And thank you for letting me know. We might have to get one in. Phil Stodd said Micro Center has a Threadripper 7970X bundle that comes with 12 gigs of RAM for just a mere $2,999.99. Such a deal. Yeah, $3,000, and you still got to get the case, the power supply, the storage, the operating system. If you want Wi-Fi, you're probably going to have to add that too. I'm assuming that maybe with the motherboard. I don't know. Dean Summershine joins us, says, happy Saturday. Hey, back at you, Dean. Good to see you. Dustin Fuller now renews membership, now a member 37 months. Thank you, Dustin. He says, great show as always, Carey and Mara. David Graham says, Armor hot dogs, great taste, but hard on the teeth. Yeah, biting into some armor. I get it. Is this waiting yet? No, we're still downloading this. This is that big cumulative update that's sort of out of band. I'm really surprised with that this didn't wait till the second Tuesday of July, whatever it is. And we'll just get this out of the way. We'll go into the BIOS. We'll check that out. And then again, it gives you time if you have any questions you want to ask. Do that now, please, so that we can do the BIOS, answer questions, and say goodbye for today. I am planning to be back live tomorrow. I did already get a replacement power supply. Amazon overnighted it. I ordered 2. I got the same power supply that's bad. And I told Amazon it's bad, and they said, okay, we'll send you a new one, but you have to send the other one back within 30 days. Otherwise, we're going to bill you for the second one. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So that one will be here tomorrow. And I said, let me just get another one. There was the mention of how good Seasonic, someone prefers Seasonic. Well, the 600 watt Seasonic small form factor power supply is $90. I could buy nearly 3 of these other power supplies for $90. So I don't want to spend $90 on a budget build power supply. That doesn't make any sense. I also don't really care for Seasonic personally. I don't find them to be more reliable. I do find them to always be more expensive. So I decided, let's go with the Apevia. That one arrived overnight. We've already got it. It arrived this morning. And then the ES Gaming replacement, that one will be here tomorrow. And then Monday, we'll probably end up taking the bad one back over to Kohl's or wherever the return is. It's free to return. I don't have to box it up or anything. I want to look more into this whole Synology situation. I'm not sure if I'll be able to have time for that tomorrow. So while I do have the power supply to continue the Mini ITX build, I think I'm still going to save that until Friday. And I still want to try that ES Gaming power supply first, because the second one does the same thing. I know there's something wrong compatibility-wise, and I'll never use them again. Then I'll use the Apevia. So one way or another, we should be good for Friday's show, doing a part 3 from yesterday's show. So tomorrow, I've been seeing a lot of GitHub scripting to bypass the drive compatibility requirement of the latest Synology 925. I might want to play with that a little bit live, just experiment with, does it work? I've also heard a rumor that the restrictions that won't allow you to install DSM on a drive, a mechanical drive, may allow you to install on a non-compliant SSD that's not on the list. We won't know until we try it. So if we can just get the DSM installed, then we can expand the RAID array out with the compatibility issue fixed, and it should work like normal. And you say, well, what happens if there's an update and it breaks it? Well, you set that in your task scheduler to automatically run the script every time you boot. So if that were to happen, you got an update, you shut the unit off and back on again. Or actually, it wouldn't even matter, because if you get the update, it's still going to run the task scheduler. So when the update installs and reboots, then every time it reboots, it runs the compatibility script. It should run indefinitely. In theory, does it work that way? Will an SSD let us put the DSM on? I don't know. So I'm thinking that might be fun. I'm just genuinely curious. I don't really care because I don't have use for the 925 at this point. So I'm looking for ways to make the 925 from Synology more useful to people. I see a lot of people talking poorly about it, saying, I wouldn't buy one because of that. Well, if I can show you how you can work around that, maybe you will still buy one. And eventually, Synology promises they'll be adding more drives to the compatibility list. The problem is, there is no drive, whether it's NVMe, solid state, or mechanical, that isn't made by Synology on that list. It's all just Synology drives and nothing else. No Seagates, no Western Digitals. Doesn't matter if it's SSD, doesn't matter if it's NVMe, doesn't matter if it's mechanical. And they say, well, our testing takes a long time, and when we get the testing done, we'll update the compatibility list. Who knows when that's going to be? So if you want to use your 925, if you want to buy it now, be able to use it, in theory, these GitHub scripts that are free and easy to run, we'll walk through them together. So that way you have a how-to video you can step through and follow along with us if you choose to do that. And then we'll keep an eye on the updates, and the minute the compatibility list gets updated with other manufacturers, we'll let you know. Will it be tomorrow? Will it be 10 years from now? I don't know. Dennis Hill said, I'm using a 10-year-old MSI 850 watt power supply for my NAS. It's not uncommon for good power supplies to have 10-year warranties, and they wouldn't offer a 10-year warranty if they didn't know, from an actuary perspective, that they will last minimally that long, most of them. Not that yours necessarily came with a 10-year warranty, but power supplies that come with 10-year warranties do so because they figure it, based on its design, it's going to last at least 20 years. So yeah, you're still going to have a failure now and again, but most of them, the vast majority that have those longer 7-year, 5-year, 10-year warranties, they do that with the confidence knowing that statistically you are unlikely going to have a problem. And they're willing to put their money on it. And if that sells a unit, there you go. If they're getting a lot of bad units they have to replace, it costs them money, and they have to keep replacing it multiple times in that 10-year warranty period, they're losing money, in which case they may not have a business much longer, and it sours their reputation. And you likely, just from the experience, won't, regardless if they're replacing it at no cost, you're still inconvenienced by having to do the work and be without during the replacement period. You probably aren't going to buy from them even if they do make it right. So companies that promote these long warranties, they do so because they're confident the products aren't going to have any problems for at least that period of time. The fact that you have an MSI power supply that's 10 years old, which may not have come with a 10-year warranty, I'm just explaining why 10-year warranties are offered now for that very reason. Why wouldn't they? If they would have told you when you bought that power supply that it had a 10-year warranty, they could have charged a little bit more for it. That's all I'm trying to get out. I don't know what the warranty was on that power supply, but they could have sold it for more money. And they would have met their obligation, and you'd be a happy customer after 10 years. It's done exactly what they said. I just want this update to finish and we can get in the BIOS again. If you have questions for me, this is the time to ask. I'll do my best to provide an answer. The floor is yours, guys, with regards to whether it's the mini PC or something unrelated. It's pretty quiet in there right now, so if you have an unrelated question, again, I'll do my best if I can provide an answer. I want to thank our friends at SCD Keys. As always, they provide the Windows Office and license keys that I buy for myself and my clients. Use the coupon code Carey. In fact, let's jump over to camera 1 full screen for just a moment. Use the coupon code Carey to get 30% off their prices. And we want to thank them for taking care of our audience here, making sure that you guys have a reliable, reputable, legitimate seller of license keys. You don't have to worry about getting ripped off. You don't have to worry about being abandoned or ghosted after the sale. They have support on that product for up to 6 months. If you buy a product key, please use it within 6 months. Please, the better, the sooner the better, because things happen. Product keys get stolen. You may not even be aware of it till you go to use it. Then you're mad at the product key seller instead of at the person who stole it. That's just one example of things that happen. And if it's been 5 months and 3 weeks since you bought it, you're still in their support window. But if you've waited more than 6 months, they still might help you, but it kind of raises some red flags, just so you know. The folks over at SCD Key, they have great support. You probably won't even need it. If you do need it, they'll take care of you. If they don't take care of you, you write to us and you let us know, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. Right there's our email address. We stand behind them 100%. I wouldn't endorse anything I wouldn't sell to my own customers. And we certainly appreciate their extending that offer, because initially that was a 1-year deal. We're moving on, in this fall will be 3 years. And the problem is, the minute we take it away, I'll have people going, I wanted to buy that key. Every single time. So we're trying to keep it up there and available for you guys. As long as you're using it, we'll keep it up there. If we see a preponderance of people just not using it anymore, there's no point in offering it. And the minute we stop offering it, the emails will come in. Where'd it go? I was trying to buy a key today. I laugh because it's so absurd. So I hope you take advantage of it. All right. So the email address is down below. That's the best way to reach us, right there. And let me go back over here, see if we're ready to reboot yet. Still installing. Okay. Mortant joins us, says hello, happy Saturday. Mortant, good to see you. Let me put camera 1 back on the corner again, since we're waiting. So just bring it over here this time. And then let me go full screen right over here. All right, that's a big update, that big cumulative update, and it's probably waiting for many of you. So if I were you, again, I emphasize, run your updates on every piece of software whenever you run the software. Whatever program you're running, just the next time you run it, take a moment, check it for updates. Somewhere between File and Tools and Help, there's a Check for Updates option on every piece of software. And with Google Chrome, it'll be in the About section. That makes sure that you have all the latest bells, whistles, and features, and that you're getting the best performance, reliability, and it's all free. And while I mentioned a lot of updates do happen automatically, how do you know? So it is important to audit and check. I'm just looking around the room. Oh, our friends over at Nemo, that laptop manufacturer that's assembled here in the USA. They have the 90-day return, all that other stuff. They sent us the opposite end of the spectrum. So where they sent us the budget PC laptop, they also have a gaming laptop, which is like 3 times more money and a lot more than 3 times the power. A bigger screen, I think it's a 17-inch screen. So we're going to take a look at that this week at some point. That's coming up. And we certainly thank the folks at Nemo for working with us. It's a very promising young startup company. I am very impressed with what I'm seeing from them. I only mention it during the Minisforum because it's not really a competitor. Minisforum doesn't make laptops. They do have the 3-in-1 tablet, but they're quickly on the road. Nemo is to becoming a highly recommended product as far as laptops go for price. I'm just very hopeful to see more of the same on the higher end, and that when you consider all the extra you're getting for the extra money, that it's still a bargain. We're going to find out together later this week. But that's what I'm hoping for more of the same. Patrick lets me know there is an update to Crystal Disk Smart. Thank you, Patrick. Speaking of updates, I do from time to time check the utilities I use, like Crystal Disk Info, CPU-Z, HWI, Hardware Info, for later versions, newer versions. And I think I just checked it last week, and it still was at, what, 804. So I probably wouldn't have checked it for a few more weeks. I check it like once a month, once every 6 weeks. So now that you've told me that, I'll go and put it on here. I don't know that it's going to make any difference, but there may be some new drive technologies out that it detects, or some new controllers that I'm not quite sure what the updates on the Crystal Disk Smart test do. I do know with Crystal Disk Info, where it's having to read the firmware of the drive, that newer drives may not be added to the database or may not translate well. So those updates are important to get accurate Crystal Disk Info. But a benchmark should still be a benchmark, but I don't know. I'm sure the updates are doing something. So I'd rather have it and not know why. So I emphasize always have the latest updates, and then you don't have to diagnose things that aren't working right. So I appreciate that info for sure. Barry Klein, you missed the beginning of the video. If you go back to the beginning of the video with regards to the usernames, we've explained it, we figured it out, and we show you how you can change it back. Okay? Everybody's got an @ symbol in front of their name. It's their channel. That's the name of your channel. So if you want to change it to a handle, you go into your channel settings. But just rewind this video back to the beginning, and we walk through that. And that looks like a permanent change from YouTube for security reasons to prevent imposters. Good to see you. We're glad you joined us. Hope you're having a great day. All right, we're just about done here with this update, I think. Again, it is a big update. Yeah, we're at 93% here, so very soon now we can reboot. And when it reboots, I'll press the delete key over and over again, and we'll get in the BIOS. We don't need to necessarily get back into Windows now at this point. I just want this out of the way. And by the way, that could have been affecting our Cinebench results, that this was going on in the background. It's entirely possible. So I might still do that later, just to see if we're still hovering in the same range, or if perhaps we've had something in the background that's affecting our score. Okay. LRCX, there's Larry joining us. Welcome in, Larry. Good to see you. Good to see all of you. Essential working too hard, saying hello there to Larry, as is Mortant. Mortant says, I'm on the Intel NUC. It's really snappy. I'm going to make it my daily driver. It's I think a lot of people turn their nose up. It's an i5 9600 and they think 5 generations old. First of all, it's built like a tank. Anybody who doesn't appreciate the speed, performance, ease of which you can work on it, its unique design and upgradability, you can put a graphics card in that NUC. Mortant gets it. I'm so glad he sees the value of it, because it is an incredibly powerful machine. And you know, we've got 3 of them over here. We had 4. We sent one to Mortant. And there's nothing that makes me happier than sending one of these amazing PCs to somebody who really appreciates what it is, instead of somebody who's always comparing to the latest and greatest. When, as I mentioned, depending on how you're using it, there's very little benefit to getting the latest and greatest for most people. The i5 9600 NUC that Mortant's talking about, it's incredible. And well, I can get faster rendering out of a faster, you know, more modern Intel CPU. Everything else is going to run exactly the same speed for me. Again, it's not like Word's going to open any faster. I'm not going to type any faster. My internet's not going to be any faster. It's not like I'm sitting here waiting on things. I mean, even this brand new top of the line flagship computer is going to take a while, as is everybody's on these big updates. Nothing we can do about that. I bet you the update, that update right there on that i5 9600X takes about the same amount of time to install, because there's only so much the computer can do, and there's so much that Microsoft is doing behind the scenes we can't see. So you do reach a point of diminishing returns where you're just wasting money for things you don't need. And I think if you see the value in, you know, how much that machine is now because it's considered old, I think the people who know what it is, they're picking the right time to buy it. You know, fully Windows 11 compatible. It boots probably the same speed anything else boots. So I appreciate that Morton gets it. He sees the value in it. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about with this internet philosophy I'm referring to. If we come over here and we go to let's go to Microsoft Edge. Let's open up YouTube again. And that case we're building on Friday's build, it's a 3-year-old, 4-year-old case from G.Skill. And what I want you to look at, see, here's our video that we just did a day ago. But who else has shown this video? This My Gears tube showed it a month ago. That's pretty cool. But everybody else, they looked at it once 3 years ago and never looked at it again. 3 years ago, never looked at it again. 4 years ago, never looked at it again. 3 years ago, never looked at it again. That's not the case. That's not the case. None of these are the case. So there you go. When something comes out brand new, everybody talks about it at the same time, in the same little window of time, 3 years ago. But in the months that follow and the product is still available, nobody's talking about it anymore. None of the content creators are discussing it. They moved on to the next thing. But yet this case is still available today. How would you know? They didn't even spell G.Skill right. Anyway, yeah, it says G-S-K-I-L, and here it says S-K-I-L-L in the same video. But here they spelled it right. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. The bottom line is you've got to be aware that when YouTube video creators are making content, it's often about the latest and greatest thing. But that doesn't mean the latest and greatest thing still doesn't have value a year later, 6 months later, 2 years later, 3 years later. So if we wanted to look for that Intel Nook, which model was that? Nook 9. This 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 years ago. So what if you just started watching YouTube? You will have missed all of this content, and you would not know necessarily that you could still buy this today at a much, much cheaper price. You don't have to buy the latest and greatest. Look at this. There it is right there. And they have different versions of it, by the way. I only see 2 right here, so I'm looking at the photos. This one's a Core i7 instead of the i5 with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte. Do you know how much this was when it was brand new, when it first came out? This was well over $1,000, well over. So I just want you to consider, if you're looking for a new computer, if you're getting the latest and greatest like this ROG Nook 970, look how much money that is. It will likely never be more than this amount of money. The price will only go down. And that level of performance that you're just dropping your jaw on, a Core Ultra 9 185 with an RTX 4070, is still going to be the same performance 4 years from now. So it's just the comparison of what's new. The new stuff then has more value. The older stuff has less value, but the older stuff is still very respectable. So this is new today. Let's check it in a few years. Somebody remind me in about 2-3 years' time. See what these are selling for. You could save a lot of money if you don't have to have it today. That's all I'm saying. Can't wait. You can pay. We're still updating here. This is a big, big update, as I mentioned. So, Peter says he uses the i9 9700K CPU all day long, just perfect. I have a lot of clients, business clients, small business, that are still running the 9700Ks. We're going through their office because a lot of these offices will buy computers, 2 or 3 a year. So they have some 9th gen, some 10th gen, some 11th gen, but they also have some 7th gen and older. And I'm saying with the Windows 11, the Windows 10 deadline coming up, and I know you can extend it. I don't want any of my business customers to extend it. I don't want to support it anymore. I don't want to have to maintain all the extra knowledge for 1 or 2 clients. Let's just all move on. Unless they have a reason they can't, I will sooner give them a computer at my cost so I don't have to deal with the support issues of, how do I do this in Windows 10? I forgot because nobody's using it anymore. I don't want to do that. So if they're good clients of mine and for some reason or another they don't have the money or they can't justify it, I will give it to them. Again, it's going to be way better than anything that they're already using that's not Windows 11 compliant, and it's going to make continuing to put them on a retainer and support them much easier for me. It makes me more efficient. It makes me more valuable to them that I'm not struggling trying to remember how to do something on an old OS. So for business clients, I am not supporting them if they have Windows 10 anymore. I'm just going to tell them, I'll either give you a Windows 11 machine if we cannot get this Windows 10 replaced for whatever reason, or if they have a very specific reason with a timeline we have to set, okay, if you guarantee that you're going to have this replaced by a certain month and year, then we can negotiate that in the contract. But preferably, let's do it now. Let's get rid of it while we can. Let's get you updated. Let's keep your support smooth. Let's keep your systems equal. We're not doing something differently for the Windows 10 system. We're doing everything the same across the board with Windows 11. We keep the business up. We keep the reliability up. We keep the security up. And again, we don't have 2 sets of rules or documentation for how do we adjust the setting in Windows 10 versus how do we adjust the setting in Windows 11. That's costing me money now. So if they're paying me a flat rate retainer and I have to work more or do more work to figure out how to get the work done because I've forgotten, I'm losing money now. So it'd be cheaper for me to just give them a computer if need be, keep them on the retainer, and keep the support labor down. So when it comes to consumers, I don't worry about that. I don't make much money from consumers. As far as I'm concerned, I can take them or leave them. If a consumer has Windows 10, depending on what the problem is, maybe I'll offer, but I'll be curious to see what Geek Squad does, because I'm imagining when Windows 10 support officially ends in October, despite the potential to extend it, I will bet you Geek Squad doesn't care. They're just going to go, look, that's a whole set of knowledge from 10 years ago. If the person behind the bench at Geek Squad is 20 years old, then you're asking them to fix a computer that potentially the operating system came out when they were 10 years old. Think about what you're asking somebody to do. You bring some old piece of hardware this poor kid's never seen in his whole life. He doesn't know what it is. He's never seen it. Or, especially if they're younger, they always want the latest. The younger folks, unless they're collecting vintage Walkmans or something for a novelty, vintage digital cameras, that's like a little joke. This is serious work, and likely Geek Squad is not going to take on that additional training for their young staff. So you got to think about it. When you bring your computer in for repair, how much experience does that person have with your older hardware? And if they're young, a 20-year-old kid is not going to have 20 years of experience. Greg Casabona renews membership, now a member for 22 months. He says, I just built an Intel Ultra Core 265KF using a Z890 ASRock Live Mixer Wi-Fi 7. Very good board. And he's got an NVIDIA 3090 GPU. So what'd that cost you? I'm going to guess you got to be somewhere around $1,800. I'd also wonder what cooler did you use as well. The price on this is looking better and better. Although that 3090 GPU can't compare with this one. But this one can't compare with that one. 3090 is clearly going to be a far better card. Barry Klein said, if you speed up my video 2 times the speed, I make a convincing auctioneer. Sold. All right, this update. Wow. I didn't think it would take this long. I wouldn't have done it. If I would have known it was going to take this long, we would have just done the BIOS and ended it by now. And I thought, well, the length of time it'll take to install, we can have a little interaction here. So again, that opportunity still exists. If you want to talk to me, you got questions, right up until this is done. This is a massive update. This is KB 5060829. $38 new changes. Yeah, it's massive. It is an optional update at this point. It's not security updates. These are feature updates. When people talk about, oh, I can get Windows 10 LTSC and get free updates until 2028 or whatever it is, you're only getting security updates. You're not going to get any of these benefits. It's completely neutering your operating system. Some people might say, well, I like a neutered operating system. Well, then why are you running Windows? You sound like you need to be running Linux. It's like you're trying to take a sports car off-road when you need an off-road vehicle for that. And you're like, oh no, I can just put bigger tires and change the transaxle. You're working way harder than you need to. Use the tools the way they were designed to meet your needs. Don't adjust the tools to meet your needs. That's like crazy. Not when you have all these choices. Why would you force yourself into such torture? And I love how people love to leave comments about, oh, I got rid of it. They go to a Windows channel and they talk about the best thing they ever did was get rid of Windows. Why are you watching Windows content? That's crazy. Can you imagine if I went to a Linux-based channel and I said the best thing I did was get rid of Linux and go to Windows? What kind of response do you think I'm going to get from that community? Why are you here? Just to boast about how smart you are? Well, good. Good for you. Clearly, you're too smart for us. Go hang around the smart people. If that's the way they want to go around, well, let's support that. You go for it. Don't let us get in your way. This Windows doesn't meet my individual requirements because it wasn't designed to. It was designed to meet the requirements of the world population. If you think you're better than that, for whatever reason, you should be running a different operating system rather than complaining about using the wrong operating system. I love the internet. Peter says the 9700 is the first 8-core processor from Intel. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I probably knew it at the time. Craig Casabona with a $20 super chat says, I used an ID Cooling SE903 and he got the 3090 from someone he knows, so he bought it used. All right, hey, I'm all about saving money. So the ID Cooling SE903, I'm not familiar with any ID Cooling product. It's working well. Since we're waiting, let's go see what that is. ID Cooling SE903. Oh, it's an air cooler. Okay, so it's like a Mugen. This says it's an XT. He said he has an SE. This one right here. $15? What? That's keeping your chip cool with a 92mm fan? That's not even a 120. That seems a bit inadequate. Have you run Cinebench on that to see if you're having any heat issues? Because that would worry me. $15. Look, I'm not suggesting you've done anything wrong, but I wouldn't even have tried. So if you run Cinebench on this and you're okay, you're not getting to 105 degrees on that thing. Sincerely, I want to know. And I'm just tired of waiting on this, so let's just restart it now. And let's go take a look at the BIOS, because we're going to be at an additional hour here. So I just need to move it along at this point. Now, if we weren't broadcasting, I'd just let that sit as long as it needs. I don't normally like to interrupt updates, but it is what it is. I would just think the Core 265 is the Ultra 7, isn't it? And you don't have to contribute, Craig, just to respond to me. You can put the @ symbol with my name, and it'll, I don't know if you've ever tried that, but it should put my name in orange. I think it puts it in orange. Craig says, I did not run Cinebench. I'm going to reorder another CPU cooler. I know I bought the wrong one. Oh, well, I'm not. Maybe that works. I don't know. I do know that. Did you check the PL1 and PL2 settings to ensure that your 265 KF is set correctly? Because ASRock doesn't follow Intel's defaults. They refuse to. They have, in the ASRock BIOS, it'll say Intel default, ASRock performance, and then Intel baseline. None of them, none of the three options are the actual default. So if we look at Google, let's go over here. And let's go to window capture. Let's type in PL1, PL2, Intel 265KF. So 125 and 250. So PL1 will be set to 125. That's your long power rating. And PL2, your short power rating, 250. If you set those, make sure, you're probably going to have to set it by hand to get there, by the way. That cooler may be adequate, but what I'm saying is, if you set this exactly the way Intel wants it, ASRock does not allow you that automatic setting. You have to do that by hand, just in case you don't know this. And then you can run Cinebench with that cooler and see if it's gonna not overheat. If you reach temps, I would say anything over 95, so 96 or above, I would stop the test. And I would assume the cooler's not adequate. And if you let us know, I'd appreciate it. Craig says he updated the BIOS. That's not enough. The update won't fix it. So the Ultra processors, they cannot go over 250 or whatever it is. So the whole issue we had with the prior generation was through the too much wattage. Because the new Intel chips are made with chiplets instead of one monolithic die, they all don't have the same tolerance of voltage that a single die has. So the update on 12th, 13th, and 14th gen is very important. But on Ultras, it's not important. The BIOS update's not helping you. So essentially, the BIOS update is there for adding compatibility for the new Intel CPUs, the new Intel Ultra ones that came out, because they only introduced the top three, right? Basically the i5K chip, the i7K chip, and the i9K chip. And then this is what they do every year, and then they bring out the rest of the family at some point after the new year. And even when you have the latest ASRock BIOS, it does not follow Intel default recommended PL1 and PL2 settings, and they absolutely refuse to budge on it. I've talked to their support. Their support says, this is what Intel told us. I said, you're lying. Show me the document. Oh, we cannot show you the document. It's under NDA. That's another lie. There's no such thing. And they said, well, MSI and Gigabyte and Asus also do the same thing. I said, that's why you're doing it. You don't have an Intel document. You're lying to me. So for your benefit as an end user, you should be aware all 4 manufacturers have colluded together to overvolt or to set the PL1 and PL2 off into the same value, which it's like, well, you don't need first gear in your car, just have second gear. You know what? You don't need third gear either. Just second is all you need. Well, do you think first and third gear are there for a reason? Because what they're doing is they're setting PL1 and PL2 to just be the same, which means there is no more PL1 or PL2. If they're both the same, it's just PL. This wears your CPU down, it increases the power consumption, and it's no benefit to you. I strongly recommend you manually change your PL1 and PL2. It will not be set correctly, I promise you. Nobody right now, not ASRock, not MSI, not Gigabyte, not Asus, not a single one of them follow Intel's recommendation. Even though it says Intel default power profile, it is not. Check for yourself, let me know what you see. He says, how do you change the PL1 and PL2? If you look at, what was the last? It's on my YouTube channel here. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. I have a video just on this. Let's go to YouTube. I think you're missing some of my videos, Craig, because I just covered this a few weeks ago. Let's go to Carey Holzman's channel. Gosh, I've done a lot of content in the last few weeks. Holy moly. All right, hold on a second here. Let's go to videos, live. That should get me where I want to go. Oh, maybe not. Made a lot of videos last couple weeks. I don't think I'm seeing this in order of release. Let's just type in Carey Holzman space ASRock. That'll probably pull it up. Because I called ASRock out specifically. I think my search results are showing by popularity instead of by date. Try something else here. So I'm going to show you a video from my Computer Quick Tips channel. So the Quick Tips channel is sort of a, let's jump over here. Videos that I'm trying to keep under 10 minutes for a different audience that doesn't want to learn anything. They're just like, just tell me how to fix it. I don't care why. So I don't like to encourage this, but it does answer your question. You'll see here in this video, I'm on an ASRock motherboard. This is a B860M live mixer. And if we hit play here, I demonstrate where you go to change the settings or verify even that you're at the wrong settings. And I think I'm just trying to locate it here because it's different in every BIOS. So here's their power delivery profiles, and Intel baseline does not follow the actual Intel baseline. And none of these follow it, not a single one. So you have to go and get into where am I going? I go to advanced mode, then I'm going to OC tweaker, then I'm going to CPU configuration, then I scroll down and I'm looking on the right side for the numbers. See the 250 and 250? So long duration is PL1. That should be 125. The short, or just, boosting, momentary boosting is the short duration, meaning it'll bump up to 250. That one should be 250, but the first one there should be 125. And then what you do is you just type it in with your keyboard. So, but I know I have the same video here, but also I have it at Computer Quick Tips as well. Let us know what your experience is. Yeah, I thought I was outsmarting the system by telling it to reboot. Told you this is a big update. I feel like this is way too long. Something ain't right here. But I'm on the fence about whether or not to interrupt it. You can corrupt a Windows install by interrupting it. But I do know a pretty good tech. So I just want to be done here. I'm going to just pull the power. I don't recommend you ever do that. We are in a live video, and I have tried to stall, and I'm done. So we're just going to turn it back on. Let's see if we can get into the BIOS here and finally take a look at the BIOS, and we can wrap it up for today. Delete, delete, delete. I start pressing delete right now. We got in there, and it's a graphical user interface. Yay! Let's take a better look at what's our choices in here. Normally, I just leave all this alone, and I recommend you leave it alone too. But it is your computer, and it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it. Under the main setup, this is where I mentioned sort of a combination of text-based and graphical. We have all of our information about the mini PC here, processor type, etc. All through here. Yes, our mouse works in here as well. Under advanced, trusted computing. We also have, that's where your TPM is. Go back again. CPU config under here. Back to advanced, onboard devices. Back to advanced. That's also our RAID mode, by the way, if you wanted to enable RAID, which I wouldn't make my bootable operating system on a RAID. ACPI settings, so your power stuff is here. Hardware monitor, so all your fan speeds and temperatures are there. The network stack configuration, and we're not stacking, so that's fine. Because this is an AMD system, you have the lane speeds that you can set. It does say that SSD 1 lane speed is Gen 3 and SSD lane speed on number 2 is Gen 3. I think it's because we're dividing it in half for the graphics lane. I don't know that you'll see any difference, because you could change this, instead of by 8, you could go 4 by 4. And if we did 4 by 4, I would think we can go we can grab 4 on these other ones. What I would set it to, I think, is just auto, and let it automatically tune itself to the way you've configured it. But that's how it is out of the box. And I just leave it alone, quite frankly. I'm very happy with our NVMe speeds. They were exactly what I expected them to be. Then we have the CBS part of the AMD setup, which again is another submenu with C states and other power options of the CPU, as well as I/O stuff. Okay, that's all in there. Under security, it's just your standard, secure boot, secure flash update. Interesting, they have a flash write protect, a rollback. Interesting, but you still have to get your own firmware from the site, or BIOS in this case. There's your standard boot up order, whether or not you want quiet boot or not, meaning do you want to see all the text on the screen, or do you just want a logo covering up the background information? If you want numlock to be on when you start. And then under save and exit, we probably have a boot override. And so if we wanted to temporarily start, I don't know, something like memtest 86, or, you know, I don't want to permanently change my boot order, just this one boot, I want to boot off the flash drive. As long as the flash drive is in here when we start the computer, it should be an option. We can select it to have it boot off of that alternative boot device one time only. Otherwise, if we change it over here, we're permanently changing the boot order, which would require us to change it back when we're done, or it'll always boot to any USB drive first, and that would not be ideal. And we'll escape. We'll quit without saving. Under the UEFI shell, that's more for behind the scenes diagnostics and working. This is likely just a boot. Oh, that just tells it you want to boot, apparently. And there we go, it's booting back into Windows, and probably will continue those updates, I'm guessing. Unless I corrupted it by powering it off like I did. Now we're back to updates. I'm very curious now if I have to start all over on that update, or was it stuck on something? And it will eventually unstick itself. That's why I say it's best to wait if that's what the problem was. So let me just take a quick look one more time. Yeah, it's starting all over again. So I'll let that run this time without interruption for obvious reasons. And that's why you don't interrupt it, because it's only going to make it take longer. But at least that way we were able to finish our live video by looking in the BIOS and showing you what that looks like. It's very familiar to the other, the MS-A1 and MS-01, and even the Atom Man BIOSes look like that. At a certain price point, the BIOS gets really nice. Don't expect that on a budget PC yet, but it's coming. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for me for today. I want to thank you all again for hanging out with us today. And Mark Gaines says, Carey, I have someone that wants to buy my Trix 360 all-in-one when I get my new Corsair. Perfect. Perfect. Mark wants to replace it because it doesn't tie into his RGB of his Corsair's got sort of a proprietary IQ system. And he's decided he'd rather just stay with one RGB system. So he likes, my understanding is he likes the Trix cooler. He doesn't like the added controller and added wiring that could be simplified with an IQ compatible system, meaning he'd be buying from Corsair. So he's going to pull the cooler, get a Corsair cooler, and then sell a cooler, the one he's taking off. There's nothing wrong with it. He's going to sell it to a friend of his. Craig says, I liked you and Matt's computer services video. He's a great guest. I'll look forward to having him back on again soon because I really enjoyed having him on. I'm glad you liked it too. I'm so delighted to see somebody, you know, at his age doing the kind of work that he's doing. He's got a good career ahead of him. And I think I would gladly hire him. If I could hire him and put him to work, he would need very little training. I could just set him free and I would have confidence to know that he's doing things the right way and he's got the right values in this business that I have, that my customers are used to and expect. And my concern is if I hire somebody, I have to train that to them. If it's not in them and naturally, or they don't have enough experience to understand why it's so important, the amount of time it takes to train people, I might as well just do it all myself. But with somebody like Matt, put them right to work. And I believe that's also true with our good friend Doug Betts, Scott, Ask Your Computer Guy Scott. These guys are fantastic, and that's why I bring them on the show. We got professionals getting paid by clients, not just enthusiasts having fun with their own equipment and making suggestions that could potentially cause you harm that they're not held accountable for. So I don't need to promote them because they're already the most popular channels in tech anyway.
Absolutely. You have an email.
And you're getting your exercise up and down the stairs today.
Yeah.
You're my bare bones unit. Nothing but bones. Oh, Barry Klein sends us an Amazon gift card. He says, thanks for the tip to restart the video. I changed my handle. Sped up 2 times to catch up quick. and not realize not only does Carey become an auctioneer, but that frenetic announcing exacerbates my Carey acquisition syndrome symptoms. I want to say that again. Exacerbates my Carey acquisition syndrome symptoms. Put this money to something for Studio C. It is a $25 Amazon gift card. Thank you so much, Barry. And yeah, I'm telling you, you definitely don't want to buy one of those. Try to see if reverse psychology is helpful. I'm trying to be helpful. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody for hanging out with us. Thank you for your super chats. Thank you to, let's see, Charles Keeler, and welcome into Hans Larson as a new member. Thank you to Planet Cryos and Peter VZ for your super chats. Thank you to Dustin Fuller and Craig Casabona for renewing your memberships today. And also to Craig Casabona for his super chats as well. Of course, our friend Buster and Barry Klein. And I have the memory of a potato. I just literally had this open. Mark Gaines. How can I forget Mark Gaines? I'm going to smack myself in the back of the head for you, Mark. Thank you so much. Thank you also to Ron Barnish. Of course, our friend Buster. And I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. I do try to get through this quickly, and I think I got everybody. It's again because of you that we can afford to buy this kind of equipment and do these kind of videos, and I cannot thank you enough for your support, and more importantly, for your friendship. We have an amazing community here, and that is the most valuable thing we have to offer to the internet. If they want to join us, they're welcome to it. We have a forum section if you want to leave messages at careyholzman.boards.net. The link is in the video description. If you're interested in this unit or learning more about it, there's a lot of other YouTube reviews on this unit that came out long before we got our hands on it. And they'll do some demonstration of gaming and FPS on a varying number of games. They'll get into some details we don't get into because they've already done it. Doesn't hurt my feelings for you to do a YouTube search and find other reviewers on this. If you're thinking about it or you want to know more about it, you can absolutely get that information. Again, we're not the first here, so I encourage you to do so if you're at all thinking about this. Thank you to our friends at SCD Keys. Thank you to Mara for all the work she does in the background. She's the one that's going to address all your emails when you send us an email. She'll often be there active in our forums, and of course to our members. And we encourage people watching to become a part of our community and join us and support us so we can continue expanding and growing and continuing our independent line of reviewing. That seems to be pretty hard to find here on this platform, and we couldn't do it without your support. That'll wrap it up for me for today. I'm planning on being live tomorrow. I'm just not sure what I'm doing yet, but 1 o'clock is the usual start time. Right now that's Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope you'll join us then. Until next time, bye for now.